Hi everyone, my name is Kendrick and welcome to ENFP Male. Today I get to interview Nathaniel. So welcome, dude.
Hey,
Uh,
how's it going?
Good, dude. So you got your typing results back recently, and you've been around the group for quite a while. So before I ask you what your type is, okay, well, you know what? Tell us what your type is first. Like your
Sure,
first name.
sure. It is sort of a standard ENFP, NEFI, consume, play, blast, sleep, masculine, feminine. So that's masculine FI and then feminine extroverted intuition.
Gotcha. So you are an Owen Cook. You're Owen Cook.
Yes, sir. I didn't know I really know who that was until I got the type. I looked through the type doc.
Yeah, you got like the same beard too, except you're not like ginger.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I was one of the few brown-haired guys.
Now, you type yourself as something else. What was it again? I knew it was an EP, ESTP maybe. What did you type yourself as?
No, actually, I got all the cognitive functions and modalities right, but I type myself as a introverted feeler, extroverted intuitor, INFP, consume, sleep, blast, play. So I swapped the sleep and the play and the IP and the EP.
I see.
And as soon as I submitted my form and everything to Dave and Shan, um, a couple other people took a look at my video, and I started thinking and processing it myself, and I actually really had like a lot of deep questions about whether I was right, but I was just very into being an INFP. I had been for a while, so I wasn't letting it go. So yeah, I think that was my big problem.
And then you were the opposite. Like you were fully extroverted, the most extroverted, like of the
Yeah, one of them.
NEFI type. And
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, you got the functions right, so at least you saw
yeah,
that in yourself. Just
yeah.
different order. You thought you were the most introverted type. Turns out you were the most cranked up type, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, well, I looked at some interviews of people who were INFPs who were introverted. I'm like, whoa, I'm not that.
Yeah,
And they were
exactly.
really cool, but they weren't me. Like they were very quiet and collected, and I was goofy and kind of a spaz. So I'm like, you know what? I think I'm peacocking. I think I got it all wrong. And people were saying like the way I was dealing with like arguments on the Facebook group was very un-IP like.
Yeah,
Like I really am good friends with some INFPs on the group,
right.
but the way they would deal with like various decider issues, they would come down very strongly with their FI, like this is right, this is wrong, kind of a thing.
Right.
And I was a little bit more waffly. So it was like yeah, it was starting to dawn on me in the month coming up. And so when I did get my type back, I accepted it pretty quickly because I kind of saw it coming. But there you
So
go.
so you were like when those kind of stuff happened, you were clearly a double decider. You were like you were way too chill, to be
I
a
like
thing.
to think so. Maybe not. Like people, this is kind of what people were kind of feeding back to me too. So just the fact that I was listening to what they were having to say about my identity was like, oh, maybe I'm not an INFP because like I don't. If I was an INFP, I wouldn't be listening to their feedback as much.
Right.
Not that INFPs can't take feedback, but it is kind of like an IP thing not to really be taking feedback. And here I was taking feedback. So
Right.
so I don't know. I just kind of got stuck in an idea and I didn't really leave it.
Yeah. Yeah. I noticed that too with the ISTPs. They kind of go nuts over the feedback thing too, So
Hmm.
uh
Yeah.
yeah, I see your point of view. Like, unless they're I think feminine FI or feminine TI, then they're more chill about it. They're not like
Sure.
so sexual modalities definitely come into play. Now what was your now that you're an ENFP? What is your opinion of that? Like, do you like it? Do you not like it? Talk about your FI in this situation.
I was a little upset at first, not horribly so. I think I would have been kind of devastated if I was a TI. Not that there's anything wrong with TIs, but like it was so it didn't feel right for me. Like it just felt wrong. Like a lot of people were telling me that I was a TI, and I'm like, no, I'm just not. And but here's the thing, like when I was looking through the type docs over the last couple years, I was getting stuck on this one picture of this one guy. Um, I think it was Seamus, or he was a WWE wrestler, Ginger,
Oh, Seamus.
Sheamus,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
And I'm like, it doesn't look like me, but there's something about this picture that's kind of weirding me out because when I go running and I come back and I was all sunburned and sweaty, and the hair, like the sun would kind of go through my hair reflection in the this car windshield running back. I'm like, that's the same face. Like it's like, not the same, but it's the same. And this is like a year before I got my type back, and I'm like, that can't be me. But like, oh, and I posted a Facebook profile picture, and a bunch of friends who aren't in OP said I looked like Robert Downey Jr., which I don't look like Robert Downey Jr. like at all. Um,
Have you clean shaven and see if like
oh, I'm actually usually clean shaven. This beard's unusual.
okay
So yeah, like and that picture was clean shaven, kind of like whiskered. And I actually looked up old pictures of Robert Downey Jr. and he's a buck tooth. He used to be a buck tooth just like me. Like
oh
very much so. Like, so if you look at really young pictures of him and really young pictures of me, we kind of, I mean, he's an actor and he's kind of good looking, and I was like, but like yeah, there's similarities there, like the animatronics, the buck teeth, the kind of elfish, goofy, trickster look
yeah,
when I was younger. There's similarity. I mean, I'm ethnically different, so I'm like Eastern European, and I think he's Western European. So
you're like, are you like Russian or something, or
a lot of Russian, a lot of Swedish, but the Swedish is Russian Swedish, if that makes any sense. So yeah, a lot of Russian,
I see.
Ukrainian, Romanian. Yeah.
Um, well, if Robert Downey Jr. looks better when he's older, right? So you have like a lot of hope, like a lot of.
Yeah, yeah, he looks good for an older guy.
He looks better older than when he was younger, right? So you have a
Yeah.
lot of, that's a lot of good sign for you.
He wasn't a bad looking young guy either. Like, I don't know. There's a whole scene on YouTube of people just going crazy lusting after young RDJ. There's like, I found these videos of him in slow motion
Yeah,
from his younger movies. I'm like, somebody's making this.
yeah,
Somebody's into something.
yeah.
Just saying, something's going on.
Yeah, probably like a standard INTJ. Like
Yeah.
that would be your ideal type, right? Like if you were to date someone, would be like the standard INTJ,
I don't know. I think the women I've liked over the years, I think have been kind of all over the map on personality type.
Yeah,
I think there's been some ESTJs in there, like maybe feminine, masculine, ESFJ. I'm sure there's been a couple, like an ESFJ or ISFJ or two.
right.
I think I'm really into like SI users actually.
I see.
Um, yeah, or introverted sensors. So like ISFJs, ESFJs, um, like if I hear a girl talking about how they like history, like when I was a kid, and then she's like, "Oh yeah, I like reading books like about history just for fun," I'd be like, "What are you doing later today?"
Yeah.
And then I'd remember I didn't have a car and be like, "Never mind, I can't ask you out. I don't have a car."
So you like the controlling tribe SI people,
I actually think so, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know for sure, but like um women I've known who have been like double observers and kind of known what to do in the moment and just like sort of like not boss people around, but like just kind of known what to do in a situation and kind of give like real clear, concise instructions like, hey,
yeah,
do you mind if you do that and that and that? Because you feel helpful, like you're helping somebody out. And I actually think that's like a really good foundation for like, like attraction for somebody like me, because I'm an idea person and I have a lot of cool ideas. They think that's really cool. And then they'll like sort of lay down like okay, let's do this then and this, that, and like set up the times and like then I think it's a good balance.
yeah. But you wouldn't be bad at getting things done either, because you have, you're like a plate blast crackhead technically, like you have those together,
Yeah,
and
technically.
you have double activated TE. I mean, it's feminine, but it's double activated. So like you're kind of like a, like if you were like a, in the middle with the self and tribe, you're like almost like 49-51, because like it's,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
And
uh,
it's probably accurate, but the SI is non-existent. So someone sort of like laying down the times and reminding me of where I need to be when, like the really simple stuff. Like I almost blew past our meeting. You told me 2 p.m. Pacific time. So I thought in my head, okay, 4 p.m. my time. But later I got it mixed up thinking that you said 4 p.m. your time. So I was like, okay, I got to be ready by 6 p.m.
Oh, I
So I,
see.
I double checked the Facebook chat. I'm like, oh no, I got to be ready a little bit earlier. So I really do need like somebody to be keeping me like on pace and like remember where I need to be. Um, like my mom recently passed away, and I think my mom was a introverted sensor. And whenever there was like a wedding that the entire extended family was going to, she'd always send me a text saying like, "Hey, you know, it's a couple days from now. I know you probably forgot. Make sure you show up at the wedding. Don't forget." And after she passed away, my aunt gave me a text. Is like, "I know you tend to forget dates and stuff. Like, just remember, there's a wedding coming up this weekend. You should be there." Because I know you didn't RSVP, but you wanted to come. So yeah, that's I definitely I can do a lot, but I need like deadlines, and I'm not the one to give myself deadlines.
I
It's really
see.
bad, actually.
You're like delegating the SI to someone else, and but
Yeah.
you're still info dominant, man. Because you like even before the interview started, you said that you thought it was something else, but then you went back and checked. So you are like info dominant. Like you are making
Yeah.
sure that you have the accuracy of the information.
Maybe my saving grace.
Yeah.
I almost didn't check though. And I mean, I've blown past appointments before for that very reason. Um, a lot of my dreams are introverted sensing dreams where I'm trying to find out where like if my office would call up. I work in a group home, so a group home business, and there's like lots of homes across the metropolitan area where I live.
What's a group home?
Um, it's a group home. It's like adult foster care.
Okay.
Some group homes are just for regular foster care for, um, teenagers or children, but the ones I work in is for adults. So with developmental disabilities or behavioral disorders, lots of mental health issues too. So it's a really good fit for, I think, my personality. It's a very good double decider industry to be in. So if I get sent to a different house than normal, and I need to like look up how to get there, my dreams are always about like one, getting to the right place at the right time, and two, giving the correct medications to the right people, and then making sure no one runs away. So I dream about that all the time because it's, I think, my just demon. And to sleep process all of that, I do it when I sleep. So it's really interesting. Um, like, yeah, I really kind of, I'm starting to realize now that I'm actually sleep missing because I only do the sleep processing when I'm asleep, and it's very interesting to think about.
All right. So we have the same kind of problem in life. We wrote SF last. We're both ENFPs.
Yeah, yeah.
So
You're a play, blast, consume, sleep, right?
right, right. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah,
I'm
we're kind of similar in a lot of ways.
yeah, we both have double activated TE.
Mhm.
SF is gonna be our biggest problem. So uh I don't know what Dave told you about your SF, or your sleep last. They told me like I can use it like in a rudimentary way. They told me I have 50% use of it. They said I still have 50% to go. So I'm like, okay, cool. And then
Oh wow, that's pretty good.
yeah, and then Dave said that he pointed out to where the SF sleep I was missing. He's like, okay, it looks like you're processing your emotions and you're trying your best to conserve your energy. It looks like your biggest hole is the actual SF, like the SF cool stuff. Like trying
Yeah.
being a cool guy, and whatnot. So I'm like, oh, okay, I see. I'm like, okay, fuck, that is hard. So
Hmm.
so it looks like, if you look at the SF, there's like several dimensions to it. So the first dimension is, are you conserving your energy? Are you preserving your energy? The second one is, um, are you processing your feelings, your emotions, your thoughts?
Mhm.
And then another layer is, being the cool guy, right? Like the SF cool
Yeah.
guy. And there was one more that I think belongs there, but I'm like, it flew out of my head.
Taking care of yourself, like maybe
Yeah,
physically, like fitness.
yeah, exactly. So that one. So my nutrition is shit. So that could be like another area that I need to work on, because I work out like pretty regularly. So fitness wise
Sure.
is fine, but nutrition is not very good. So what about you?
I'm in
Like,
the same camp. Yeah.
so like which part of those dimensions? So it looks like we covered 4 dimensions of that SF sleep loss. So which of those 4 would you say is like the biggest trouble area, or which parts of each of the 4 would you say?
Yeah. That's a good question. Starting out, I was probably, um, as a child and a teenager, the energy uh preservation was basically my parents took care of it. I lived in kind of a rural, heavy home. It wasn't really a negative experience for me, actually. That's kind of surprising, seeing as I'm like an ENFP. But it wasn't really a bad thing. I don't really look at it negatively. So the energy preservation was great until I hit my 20s, and then it got very bad. Um, Coolness was non-existent when I was a kid, and most of my 20s was pretty bad too. And arguably, it's not great. But in my mid 20s, I really started buckling down on working on art. I've always enjoyed drawing and artistic sort of expression. And I started getting a lot more into listening to music and just like consuming music and consuming like culture and films. So this is very much lead consume. But the consequences, like, getting into art makes you a little bit cooler and more interesting. So I'm still a terrible dresser, and I wouldn't call myself cool by any stretch of the imagination, but it's not this huge, just black void that it used to be maybe when I was younger. Back when I was more of a nerd and a video gamer. And I still love being a nerd and a video gamer from time to time, but I spend so much more time on like SF stuff, like art, that I think I'm a little bit more balanced. Um, Fitness used to be very bad, like abysmally bad, and it got so bad like in my early mid 20s that it was kind of like a big come to Jesus moment for me, where I really had to change my diet. I was just drinking like half a case of pop like a
Oh,
day.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, so it
Oh,
was like, and the really like Mountain Dew, and like the not just even Mountain Dew, but it was like Dr. Pepper, Mountain Dew, and like the versions that were like stronger, more energy drinkish. So it
okay.
was very bad. So like gaining tons of weight, feel miserable beyond imagination, feel like I'm 50 years old, just sick. I'm not doing really any physical activity. I'm just like playing video games and working in an office all the time. So emotionally and spiritually and physically, I'm just a dump, like completely. So at some point, I switched to black coffee and I started running and playing soccer, and I lost about 70 pounds. So that was awesome. And I stopped eating a lot of fast food, and I started working and stopped working in the office, started working into group homes, and started doing a lot more sports. And yeah, that really helped. So I'm not great. I'm not I'm not a bodybuilder or an athlete or anything like that, but it's more balanced. Energy consumption. That is something I was really bad at in college. I've always been a night owl. So, in college, I would have classes at 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning, and I would be staying up till 4 o'clock at night and only studying at the last minute. Um, just basically, I would have a very difficult time focusing until it became like crunch time. So I would finish all my schoolwork at the last minute possible, sometimes pulling all nighters and then trying to go to class. I was really not into missing classes, and my school was small. It was a small Bible college, and so you really couldn't have absences without flunking out like immediately. Um, so I would go to all my classes, and I was playing soccer too. So I was also physically like just destroying myself. So yeah, very much sleep last. Just destroying myself, burning the candle at both ends. My grades weren't actually that bad. During the soccer season, they were like B's and C's, so not great. Um, but seeing as what I was doing to myself, it could have been a lot worse. Um, so yeah, and once I got out of college, I worked an overnight job for a while, so I was tired a lot then. So again, that kind of points to maybe being sleep last. And I think I do a little better now. I try to sleep. I still have a hard time going to bed before 2 in the morning, but yeah, I'm doing a little better.
Yeah, that's fine, man. Like a lot of people I think are night owls. It is what it is, right? It's like
Yeah.
genetics. Like I'm a night owl too. I don't sleep till like 2 or 3 a.m. So like when the pandemic hit, that's when I said to myself, okay, let's see what will happen if I just like let myself sleep when I felt like it's natural to sleep and just wake up when I felt natural. And I was surprised. Like I went to bed naturally at 2 to 3 a.m. and woke up naturally at like 10 to 11 a.m. I was like, okay, well that tells
Yeah.
that tells me a lot. Um,
Yeah, it's very much the same way for me.
yeah.
But I might
So,
push myself too. So
okay, so we covered parts of the sleep last. So you talked about the lack of hitting the brakes and taking care of your health. So that seems to be like, from so far the story that you've told me so far, that seems to be the biggest issue. Even worse than the SF cool guy part, because it seems like you're doing a lot of that already. So it seems like the void is
more lately, it was probably a big void when I was younger.
sure, sure. Well, you're doing it now.
Nobody would call me the cool person.
Well, you're doing it now, so it's
Trying, yeah,
trying, you're trying.
little steps.
Yeah, trying is better than nothing.
Yeah,
uh, and then the health thing is definitely a huge problem. Lots of voids there, obviously, and you're trying your best. Uh, I can see lots of improvement still, room for improvement, obviously, but it's overall you're moving the right direction. Uh,
yeah.
so
It's encouraging.
what about the emotional processing? How's that like?
Oh yeah. See, this is something that I actually thought I was pretty good at. So I put myself sleep second because I said earlier that my mom recently passed away, and it was just 2 years ago, just over 2 years ago, and it was obviously devastating. It was completely out of the blue. She died of a sudden cardiac arrest, so it was very quick. From her perspective, she probably didn't even know what happened. She just went to sleep. Um, and But obviously it devastated my family, and I was just kind of gauging the way everyone was emotionally reacting and healing from just the trauma of that, just you know having someone there and then suddenly passing away unexpectedly. And my mom was a huge part of everybody's life. Like she was a deeply caring, support oriented individual. I personally think she was like an ISFJ or an SF sleep ISTJ of some kind. Just a very supportive person. So when she passed away, the nurture that a lot of people were kind of dependent on without almost even realizing it, because she played such a behind the scenes role, all of a sudden everybody's losing their person at once. Like, so my aunts, like, if they're like sleep last ESTJ types, if they needed to emotionally process something, they were talking to my mom, because my mom was their person. And so my mom passes away, and the person that they would normally be going to deal with such shock and trauma isn't there anymore. So for me, I just kind of leapt into things right away and was very emotional, like messy crying, just weeping, like really visceral emotions, until to the point where I had to like just shut it off like a spigot, because I thought it was going to kill me. Like, it was very intense, which I think is healthy. But and then going to everybody at the funeral and the wake and anybody I could find, and telling them like the complete circumstances of how she passed away, like just reliving the whole thing over and over again for myself, and communicating it to them, like telling them what kind of day it was, like what was the things that she was seeing that last day, what was her mindset, what was she writing in her notebooks, what had she been doing the last couple days of her life, just like giving them that sort of like snapshot, just to know that she passed away with like tons of life to live, and she was really engaged and involved, and in a good place, like spiritually and emotionally. And I thought that was sleep processing. Like, it was funny because the night before she passed away, I was working an overnight shift and I was trying to figure out her type. So I was like thinking about her a lot the night before. I get home from my night shift, go to bed, then I get woken up by a phone call saying that she had passed away. So it was all such a surreal rush. So it was just like, yeah, it was nuts. And I had noticed I was like kind of emotionally recovering in a lot of ways a little bit more quickly than some other people. Whether or not that's actually true or just my impression, hard to say. So I thought, I personally, now I'm 35, but I personally think that I emotionally process a lot. But the more I was starting to think about it, while I might ruminate and go over my emotions quite a bit, it might not actually be sleep processing. Like, a lot of the times, like, take say I don't date very much. I don't like dating. It's kind of feels controlling. And I like to be very free and independent.
Yeah.
So But there have been a few people that I were kind of like thinking about and being interested in. Like there was a woman in college that I liked. Um, and when she married somebody else, it took me a few years to like sort of cut away that scar tissue and not care anymore. Um, and that might be sleep, that might be narrowing down for the self. Like there's this thing I can't let go of, maybe. And that theme's repeated itself over time. Like I don't always let go quickly. So that might be the sleep last. Emotional processing is more than just thinking about it, but it's thinking about it and feeling it, then coming to a conclusion and maybe moving on. And the moving on part, I think I really struggle in that area and just feeling like I'm coming to terms with it. And it's interesting because after I got my type back, I looked up a lot of people in my type area, like Robert Downey Jr., and it kind of seemed like he had the same issue. Like I looked up his Oprah interview where he was talking about his drug addiction and how he like could decide anytime he wanted to not be into drugs anymore, but he had to really like mean it, really really let go of his past. And there was a point where he let go, and like now he's the person we know today, someone who's way put together. Um, I think that's where my emotional processing is lacking, is the letting go part. So I don't know if that, I hope that made sense.
It makes sense. There is, I feel like there's some separations though between like the letting go and the emotional processing, because
Okay.
I feel like just from my own experience using that sleep last, it's, yeah, I can relate to your story about like having trouble letting go. I definitely
Okay.
experienced that, but I wouldn't attach that to sleep last. I think it's
Okay.
more like I would say, because it's more
Hmm.
like a lack of commitment. um you know,
Oh, sure.
you're an ENFP like me, so we both have commitment issues. Like you even said that you don't like dating because it's controlling, right? But
Yeah. Yeah.
it's,
I actually get really scared. Like if someone starts coming on to me and like asks me out, I will be very upset.
but yeah, like I've been with my girlfriend for 8 years now, right? And
Yeah.
it's actually been liberating. It's kind of weird how to say that. Like I think when you close a door, then you can focus more on certain areas in your life that should actually, where your attention should actually be in. So in a way, you're more free to focus on areas that matters to you the most, instead of
Sure.
like, you know because now when you have so many doors open, then which one do you go into, right? Like there's so many options, and you get overwhelmed almost. But then you don't want to close the door because you don't want to. And I mean, for you, you said you call it as like you don't want to, what is it, let go or whatever. But
Yeah. But no,
it
closing a door is a great way of putting it though. Like, um, because to narrow down, you're basically saying all these other options that I could be up to and doing, they're not options anymore. Like if you're dating one person, you can't be dating somebody else. Or like living a different life, like a life where you're just a single guy going across the country and don't have to check in with anybody. Not that I even would like travel the country or need not to check in with anybody, but I don't know. Like, yeah, it's a little pathological. You have single activated SI because you have the blast, right?
Yeah,
So I have no activated SI. So maybe, yeah, maybe what I'm talking about is more no SI.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah. No SI in the savior state, because
yeah.
I have it partially in this. My FI is both in the demon state, right? So
Okay.
so that but I'm still lucky though, because the function stacks still matter, and it's second for us. So for me,
Sure.
it's like, yeah, like the way I look at functions is like water balloons. And like your
Okay.
first function is like the biggest water balloon, like it's like a big one, and then when you put water in it, it expands like to so big. And then when
Sure.
you put the water in it, that's kind of like you developing and working on it, right? So
Okay.
I feel like your SI is like the smallest water balloon, but it can expand if you work on it. But it will never have the potential of your, like, let's say your FI or your NE, which is
It's
like,
not as stretchy.
yeah. So for me, I feel like, I'm like close to your age. I'm 37. So I've gone through a lot of like emotional issues in my life as well. Like my dad passed away too several years ago. um
Yeah, I was hearing that in an interview you gave. How old were you when he passed away?
it was how old was I, 30, I think.
Okay.
29, 30, 29, I think.
Still very recent then.
Yeah, well, not like 7 to 8 years ago, but
Yeah.
it's been a while. But uh, yeah, so like yeah, maybe when I was younger, I don't know. I've always felt like I can process my emotions. It was just that I couldn't talk about it.
Okay.
It was I don't know how you experience it, but for me, it's like I've always had deep feelings, and maybe because when I was young, I was like, even though I'm the most cranked up extroverted ENFP type, I always like stayed by myself to play video games and stuff, and like just think about my feelings and stuff because I felt I was
Okay.
controlled by my IJ mom. So
Sure.
I feel like my FI bucket has kind of stretched, even though it's like a demon. But
Yeah.
I didn't talk about it, which is the other part of that, I guess, to freely share it.
It's masculine, right? Masculine
Yeah,
FI.
I'm the same as you, masculine, feminine. We have the
Yeah.
same like
Same modalities and all that. Yeah, I thought so. I've watched a lot of interviews that you've done, so I thought I just want to make sure I was remembering correctly. Um, yeah, so maybe being masculine too, uh, that punch will kind of come through the void quicker. Yeah, it's interesting. Like, it was really interesting watching like the Megan Kelly class because she's so like chill with people until she's not. And before I got typed, she was kind of giving me weird vibes, like maybe this is a little closer to me than I want to accept or realize.
right.
But
I actually didn't like her until I saw the interviews. Until not the interview, sorry, until the class videos. And then
yeah, kind of me too. Like because all I really knew about her was that she was on Fox. My
yeah,
mom was crazy about her actually. She does my mom didn't watch TV or cable TV, but
yeah,
she would like watch individual stories that Megan Kelly was doing. I think especially after that interview or that debate with Trump.
yeah.
I think my mom really liked her after that because she just seemed like a very strong woman. And I
Yeah.
think my mom just really just rallied to her like almost like she was like in my mom's FI.
Right.
I don't know if my mom was an FI user, but it was kind of like that where she just was my mom was really crazy about her after that. So
I like I didn't like her because of her interviews with Putin. And
didn't see those.
you know, I if Putin comes across as an ISTJ in my opinion. So actually, when you put
Okay.
them beside each other, there is like that chemistry. I don't know how to explain it. You know, the ISTJ ENFP chemistry, because like
Were they actually getting along or was it really confrontational?
uh, I only watched bits and pieces of it, but it seems like Megan Kelly was asking Putin questions that Putin thought was stupid, pretty much.
Okay.
You know, like Putin was like giving him like her of a vibe. It's like that's such a stupid question. Like what the fuck, you know, like you know,
Yeah.
um, that
Isn't Putin kind of that way to people in general, kind of like demeaning and like, I'm better than you and I'm the man and you're nobody?
well, I've seen like he likes to ridicule things that doesn't logically make sense. So, for example, like, he had a
Okay.
like a meeting with other Russian officials once, and one of the Russian official was saying something like, "Okay, let's go export pork to this like country, other in Asia, like Indonesia or Malaysia," and then Putin started laughing. He's like, "You do know those are Muslim countries, right?"
Yeah.
You know, like
That's what I was thinking.
yeah, he's like, you know, so I think for him, when something doesn't make logical sense, that's when he kind of like, what, you know, like
Yeah, and maybe it's TE because he's like quickly seeing the spectrum of reasons.
yeah, like that. He's like that would not work, you know, because
Yeah.
those are That's a Muslim country. You can't send pork to those countries, you know.
Yeah.
So,
Hmm.
so I just thought that was that was interesting when I saw that interview between them. But it did look like they have like good chemistry together. Like it looked like
Hmm.
it's like the IJ and EP when they get together. There is like that magic, you know. Like, have you ever?
Yeah.
Do you have like any?
Um,
Do you have any INFJ friends or INTJ friends? And like when you get together, there's like some weird like
I'm
magic.
not sure. Have you done an interview with Savannah Koskovich?
Yeah, I have.
Her husband is an INTJ.
Okay.
And like whenever I see him like at church gatherings or whatever, we do
Wait,
kind of hit it off pretty quick. I think he's a
US
introverted intuition, introverted feeling. And so we both got intuition and feeling. And I think it's a really good back and forth, not to be perfectly honest. I did an interview for the study group for the OP class with Karin, who's an INFJ. Um, really hit it off well with her. Which was really cool because I know, like, I don't know if I actually, I know a lot of people who say they're INFJs, like, because people I know take like the 16 personalities class, and we've all gotten back types that probably wouldn't translate well to ops. And a lot of people get INFJ. Um, there's nobody, well, there's one person I think might be in the INFJ zone, but I don't know if they'd agree. Or INTJ, INFJ or INTJ, like a lead sleep. We've hit it off for years. Um, but I don't know what their type. I'm actually kind of bad at typing people unless I've seen someone that I know for sure is that type, and then I can do the compare game. Like I just did Mark Manson. I like the next class is on Mark Manson in the ops class. And I got him like exactly backwards, like all the cognitive functions, save your demons, and I don't know about modalities. I think I got that wrong too, but exactly backwards. So that was very embarrassing, but it happens a lot. A lot of times I get things exactly backwards. So like me, I got the extroverted introverted thing exactly backwards with me. Um, Hersian Ali, I didn't get backwards. I got her a little off. Who did I get? Else did I get exactly backwards? It was a ESFP woman. I don't remember her name. She was talking a lot about what it takes to be happy, and she was very like, working for the community in order to be happy and not seeking out your own enjoyment or self-care. I got her backwards. I thought she was an INTJ and she was a ESFP. So I'm sure I do get along really well with INFJs and INTJs. I really like deciders, I think, a lot. Um, yeah, I think I've hit it off really well, I think, with a lot of deciders. I think a lot of ESTJs. Like looking through the docs, I see ESTJs. I'm like, whoa, a bunch of my really good friends are ESTJs, like maybe on the double feminine side. Um, like like so many people I know just have ESTJIs and like, oh, that's a past friend. That's a past friend. And a lot of it's there there's a lot of insecurity and sharing their demon feelings and then being really cool with the double observers and just being like badasses, like where they just can do whatever and just get anything done, and everything looks easy to them, and I'm always asking them how to do things, like, how do you do that, how do you do that? And then they'll like come to me later, it'll be late at night, and be like, I have feelings, they're really like sensitive, and you got to be nice to me and listen. Me and my dad didn't like each other very much growing up, or some stuff like that. It's always that. Or i'm a I'm secretly a bad person. Like, no, you're not. If you only knew me. I'm so bad on the inside. I'm like, no, no, you're fine. I've heard it all.
I didn't know you were friends with Savannah in real life. That's cool. I didn't know you guys like live in the
Yeah,
same.
we grew up together in church. We really didn't know each other till college.
I see.
Yeah.
And then what was the other thing? It seems like a lot of your friends are tribe of self. Is that do you find that like it's because you're a DI, like it's just natural for you? I mean, you're kind of like a weird DI though. You're like
I actually think I have a lot of DI friends too, but usually the DI friends are like sports background where
yeah.
they're like the striker on the soccer team, where they're just selfish and just aggressive and always getting to fights. Like, so MDE, demon, IPs who are like scoring all the goals, who maybe have like military background, maybe like an ISTP, always like full of aggression, wanting to beat people up. And like I'll be their friends and like, hey, you can't hurt that guy. Like, why not? He messed with me or whatever. He chipped my ankles. Like, hey, you got to think about the team first. I'll like go feminine TE with them, and like they'll like listen to me, or like, hey, you're getting beat on defense, so like just do this little thing differently. Like, I know I'm not the greatest athlete, you're a better athlete than me, but I'm watching you, and the whole team would benefit if you like, guarded a person this way and waited to try to take the ball, and like, hurted them a little bit more than just going right after them, and try not to get so many yellow cards, and just like a lot of IPs. So it's like more of a sports, like we're doing things, and I had to like kind of try to like rein them in, like, don't take people's heads off, think about the team, you know, everyone will think you're doing really awesome if you help the team. So just don't think about yourself, think about everybody else. And then like personal friends that I'm like playing video games with, maybe more, or like doing things with, like who are trying to learn from me and I'm trying to learn from them, then maybe it's more tribe over self. So I get along with everybody, man.
Well, I don't know. I'm like I'm thinking about my own life too, and a lot of my friends are IPs or IP IJ, let's say.
Okay.
I have tons of ISTP friends, tons of INTP friends. Those are the people I grew up with, like INTP,
Okay.
ITPs, which makes sense. They have the same function, same like they're both STs and NTs, which is my two saviors, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, even like my girlfriend, I mean, my girlfriend's an IP. She's pretty much an IP, right? She's an IJIP, right? She's an INTJ jumper.
Blast sleep.
Sleep, consume, play blast,
Okay.
double
Okay.
feminine. Yeah, yeah. She was typed by Dave, and then later on double blind. But yeah, so like a lot of people that I thought I was friends with that was an INFP, I think they're not INFPs. I think they're actually jumper INTJs, because they
Oh,
look,
okay.
it would look very similar, right? Like, NIFY, right? So I
Yeah.
thought, but then I look back and I'm like, wait a minute, we're having observer conversations. We're talking about things, So it's like,
Sure.
because it's not weird when I'm talking to them. It's like fluid. So it's like, wait a minute, it's way too fluid. It's not like, when you're talking to a decider, they want to talk about people, right? Like sometimes I don't want to talk about
Yeah.
people because like I'm like, what I don't like about talking about people is that you eventually get to the point where you're talking shit about other people, and I just feel like I get sucked into that, and it's not good. It's toxic.
Yeah.
And like as I get older, I don't want to like get involved in that anymore. Like even like
Yeah.
recently, I saw my friends again after not seeing them because of the pandemic, like for a year, and
Yeah.
we played some basketball. We ate some wings, and then and then my friend who's an IP started talking about people again. I'm like, no, 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 no. Okay, like I indulge a little bit, but then later on I just cut it off. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah, that seems to be the weird dynamic. Like with more IP people, they'll start bringing up like, "Ah, I'm never gonna play soccer again with that one guy," or and the funny thing is, like all the IPs I'm thinking of would all think I'm talking about them, but like no, they don't realize that they're all talking about each other. Like all of them are talking about each other, and I'm always the one who's like, "Hey, you know what? This other guy's great. You guys are all great." I don't necessarily think I'd want them all on the same soccer team at once
yeah,
because there's just too much to manage. Because like I feel like I'm the one who's managing them all the time, like especially on the field, keeping them from getting in fights,
yeah,
keeping them from getting red cards. But it was interesting. The one area that I was like having a hard time to process is like I was so sure I was a decider because it's like, of course I care about other people. There's all these people situations that I feel like I'm managing.
yeah,
But then it like the key kind of came in kind of with what you said, like Dave once described it as like I think it was actually the Robert Downey Jr. class where you're talking good about somebody for so much, and then you start feeling like this sort of feeling like, oh, I'm being too nice to them. I gotta like say something crap about them, and or vice versa. I'm just ragging on them too hard, so I gotta like say something nice about them, like find their good side. And it's like that sort of like it's not that I'm not into people, it's that I don't ever want to go too far into people, and I'll start talking about things so I just don't get super weird about people. Like you're talking about the toxicity and stuff. Like it always becomes like, a poison. Like if you're talking about people all the time, good or bad, it just gets weird. And
yeah.
and then, other people will say that, hey, Nathan, your life's not super organized and you're very unpredictable. And you said you were going to do this one thing and then you totally forgot about it and you left me hanging. So I have weird thing stuff, I guess. I'm unaware of it. So like I'm blind to it.
Well, you're double actively play, right? So you're gonna be very EJ-ish. You're gonna be
Yeah.
like, yeah, yeah, which is weird
Yep.
because you're top above tribe. So it's like a weird.
Yeah. Cause I was talking about, and I was like talking about narcissism a lot over the last couple of years. Like it just kind of like became a weird thing for me.
Yeah,
And I mentioned it in the typing video. So everyone's like, oh, you're an EJ. Um, but they didn't
you
notice
are
that like,
technically kind of.
yeah, a little bit, but I'd say like this person's kind of narcissistic. But
Yeah,
then I'd say like, but they're also kind of cool. Like, they did all these good things.
yeah,
So that's double deciding.
it is. Yeah,
Whereas an EJ would be like, they're narcissistic. Boom, that's the end.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. You complimented them and you also shitted on them. It's both, right? So it's
yeah,
not.
kind of
It's not
going
weird.
both ways.
Yeah,
Yeah. And, you know, after I submitted my typing video, all those double decider situations started flooding into my head. And I just feel like, ah, man, I'm going to get typed as something other than what I type myself as.
Yeah.
But it felt so decidery. Like, and now I know that's because like any kind of decider stuff, as it builds up, you feel like the toxic feeling of it and you want to
Yeah.
like push it down. So I think from that perspective, I just completely misunderstood myself. But now I know.
Well, they said that, with double observers, when it comes to things, they don't go all in. Like, for example, there's like a product, like an IP or EJ likes, but they won't, even if they love that product, they'll still say something bad about it. Like, they won't just say,
Yeah.
this is the best thing ever, and that's it. Like, they're not weird about the thing, right? They'll say,
I get
yeah,
really weird about my camera.
yeah,
Like I got this camera and I'll like say all these good things about it. And then I'll say like, if you want to, I'll like be like really weird and like, if you want to get a different brand of camera, that's okay.
yeah.
But it's
Which
like
camera, which camera are you using?
a Fujifilm X-T2. I bought it like 3 or 4 years ago. Yeah, I
Yeah,
love the thing. It's great. It's perfect. You really don't need another kind of camera.
I use,
Also,
I use my,
Facebook knows I'm into distraction free like tablets.
yeah.
And I got another one. I got this keyboard.
Going on a show and
So
tell.
so like yeah, Facebook like, oh man, this EP just wants the distraction free production tools because he wants to blast more.
Yeah.
Um yeah, so they've been taking my money. They've been robbing me blind.
It seems like you're
Zuckerberg's
cool with
got
it.
me cornered.
Yeah, it sounds like you're cool with it though. So,
I'm trying to stop. I'm trying to stop.
no, I get your addiction with that stuff because like for me,
Yeah.
I got a camera, I got a Sony RX Mark 7, and
Okay, is that more like
it's a point and shoot,
okay.
and but it has a mic input, so you can have like clear sound. Because when
Yeah.
I went backpacking for a year and I had a Canon G7X, and I was so pissed that it would not autofocus on myself. I was always like blurry and my background was clear.
Oh no.
And then the audio was kind of like you can hear the wind noises and shit. So I was like, oh man, this is terrible. It was good because it was portable. So because I tried getting a mirrorless camera later on, like I got the
Mhm.
Canon M50 and it was good. But then when I traveled with it, it was awful. Like I
Yeah.
will never get another mirrorless for traveling purposes. Like it's always gonna be point and shoot for me for travel purposes.
Just because the size is smaller, it's more compact,
Yeah, take it
or
out of your pocket, film, you're done. Like I bought a gimbal, but oh my god, man, it's like takes so much time to like set it up. By the time I want to take the shot, it's
yeah.
like, yeah, I don't know.
I'm a monopod man all the way.
Monopod.
Like when I go traveling, I just put my XT2 on a monopod and I'll just carry it around like a wizard staff. It's kind of annoying, and like I've actually like got dents on my camera from like hitting it against rocks and stuff, but it hasn't broken. Like whenever I get dust on the lens, I'll just be like hit it really hard and the dust will come off. So
Yeah.
it's like it's very sturdy. But with
Well,
Sony, they got really great autofocus, I think. So that's probably what you got better than me.
I can relate with you in the monopod thing because when I did travel, I did have a selfie stick monopod in one. It was one of my favorite
Yeah.
things ever. And I had a GoPro on it on the top, and it was like the best ever. So I can totally relate to what you said. Let's so we're challenge changing too much. Let's go bring it back. So like thank God I have that SI in the same.
I don't.
Yeah, no, it's my I feel responsible for it. But like I'm like a weird EP because I do channel change, but I can catch myself because of that like blast savior. So I can
Yeah, you're an EP with Blast Savior. That's awesome.
yeah, like Dave said, I'm a EP that is an EJ, but also a miniature IJ. So he's like, yeah, you have like a power that those other EPs don't have. I'm like, sweet.
Yeah, no, totally. I can
Uh,
totally see that. Yeah.
but so I want to go back to the one thing I've noticed about you since we started this interview. It's the
Go ahead.
lack. You don't talk about your feelings. You don't talk
Huh.
about your feelings. It's weird because you are savior emotion, but you have
Yeah.
like you're
I'm
weird.
not sharing like what I'm upset about or something, or you know.
Exactly. You're talking about this guy here, this guy here, this guy here. Even though you're like an EP IP technically, like
Sure.
double activated TE, so you're EJ-ish.
Mhm.
You have not shared any like emotional struggles, emotional turmoil, like jack shit, like nothing, like zilch.
Yeah.
Even with your mom, you talked about like a little bit of it, like yeah, you talk about crying, and then you brought it back to like how other people were feeling and how other people were thinking and how your mom left a void in everyone's life. But then you didn't talk about like you didn't go deep dive into your like emotions and talk about
Sure.
the things that really like either was really painful or really hurt your feelings or really bug you. There was like a huge void there, man. Like you didn't like there's like zilch. There was jack shit. Like your TE is
Yeah.
so good. Your TE is so good. I can totally see your TE. Like you were just like
Yeah.
rattling on the TE, like no problem. Consume is really good too. I noticed like you're really good at consuming. Um, your blast not bad. I've seen you do like a little bit of like a reports during this
Yeah.
talk.
I was wondering if they're gonna type me ISTJ for a little while, but
Yeah, and I think that's a TE because you do have the TE. So like it's
yeah.
an easy like the play is double activated. So there's like an easy like you can transition to consume and blast like pretty easily. Like your place, like your sweet spot, kind of like Kanye West, you know,
Sure. Okay.
So it's like yeah, this is like your home turf, the play, and then yeah, you can consume and then you can uh blast, but then that this is your home turf, right? But then that that
Yeah.
that sleep is like in the other end and it's like completely like void.
So you're
So
saying the emotional processing is actually pretty bad.
yeah, I would say you have no emotional processing. Like not no, a little bit because
Interesting.
you did talk about crying in your mom's thing.
No, I wasn't crying. It was more like beside myself weeping, but yeah, no. And
But
I
you
think I
did.
did better than average, in that season, when it was happening. I
Well,
think I
hold on,
did pretty good, but
stop for a second. Hold on.
go ahead.
Before you continue on, I just want to point out one more observation I made. When you were
Uh-huh.
talking about yourself crying, you were referring to yourself in the third person point of view. It wasn't you. It was
Interesting.
like you were like you're like outside and you're like yeah, like Nathan was crying. You know,
Huh.
it's not like you didn't go in a huge tangent about your feelings. It was just like Nathan cried. It was almost like a reporter, like you did it. Like you were
Sure.
outside, like you saw yourself doing it, but you didn't. It wasn't you. You didn't feel it. You weren't connected to it.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense. It's like
Yeah, almost like maybe it's like too much of a hot coal. I gotta like sort of take a couple steps back from it before I start talking about it.
it's like it happened to you, but you didn't connect with the feelings itself. Like you were not inside that emotion. The
Yeah.
emotion was there, but you weren't connected to it. You were disconnected from the emotion.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Like when shit,
Like,
like it seems like when shit happens to your life, you can identify that it's bad. You can identify that it feels bad, but you're disconnected from it. It's not like you didn't own it. You didn't like take it in. It's not you.
hmm,
It's not like I felt so shitty. It's not like that. It's like I felt so horrible. I felt worthless. Like you didn't have any like verbs to describe your feelings, and using the word I a lot. Like I
yeah.
felt this. I felt that. I felt this. Like there was a void, man.
Yeah, I wonder if that's me all the time or if I'm just being a little bit more because I do feel like I do that on occasion in certain situations.
Right.
Um, but there's definitely a certain degree where, like in the submission video, I was talking about how I need to be more authentic. And a big issue that I was having in my life was a lack of authenticity, like sharing the like, how I really feel about things.
Right.
Um, there is a certain like shield up, I think. It's double masculine sleep, and I feel like my emotions can be pretty dark, um, dark and dangerous, and just, like if I'm having like a really deep conversation with somebody who I'm really close to, there I go with person again. Um, like they'll start like I'll listen to like kind of like their sort of feelings, and then they'll try to start getting like, what are you really feeling? What are you really thinking right now? And I'll be like, I just don't want to talk about it. There's like a couple of occasions where I've said that. Um, with with family recently, and it really helped. Like I was going through some really difficult times like 3 years ago. This wasn't related to my mom, just like a lot of identity stuff. Some people had made me feel very uh I felt there was a couple people who were kind of like triangulating me against other people, and I guess just being sneaky. And maybe that's an ENFP thing to think, like feel like people are being sneaky and secretive with you,
Yeah.
um, or like not being genuine, or uh, like I'll feel the vibe that something's going on. Like in this particular case, it was the vibe that I felt like somebody was into me quite genuinely and like wanted me to ask them out. And I said no, essentially. It wasn't direct because they were not being direct. It was sort of a thing where they didn't want their feelings hurt and didn't want to be rejected, but they made it very obvious that they were receptive to me like showing interest in them. And I said absolutely, essentially said absolutely not. Um, and then the physical distance between me and this person increased rather dramatically, and we kind of lost contact. But there was a short moment where we were going to, be in contact again, and that friendship started building again. And this person, I feel like, gave me a really negative like surprise because they actually had found somebody else that they were in a relationship with, and which is perfectly okay. But they did it in such a way where it felt like they were keeping secrets with me until like the last minute because they were afraid I was going to stop being friends with them. So the fear became true. Now I'm not their friend anymore, like and probably won't ever be again because I felt like tricked. Like, it seemed like they were drawing me back into their life, and then oops, surprise, it's like, it's not what you thought, and the vibe felt wrong. Like, so a lot of times if I feel like somebody's given off a vibe of one thing and then like the reality is different, I feel like I was lied to, even though no one ever lied to me.
Right.
Um, and that's a lot of that is my fault. It's wasn't authentic when I needed to be authentic and
Right.
really share the deep, scary feelings. Um, like, I've told you I really don't like dating. It's something that, if I was going to be in a relationship with somebody, I would have to give it a lot of thought and like really kind of like warm up to it. Like I've been asked out at tables before, like in front of other friends, and like I didn't even like answer. I just like walked away. Like, 'cause it was just like it felt like I was being put on the spot. I just really did not enjoy that.
Yeah.
Um, and I wasn't willing to give a chance to that person, which is sad. I'm talking about lots of different people at the same time, so sorry, it's a chaotic muddle, but
Okay, so let me get the story straight here.
sure,
So
sure.
okay, so what I'm picking up from you. Okay, so let me ask you a question then. Do you not like dating, or or have you not met the person that you really wanted to date? Because that's different.
A little bit of both. I have met a few people that I would want to date. Um,
And did you ask
there
them
was there,
directly with your?
yeah, there was one. Well, no, the ones I wanted to date, like one I sent up a bunch of letters to, because that was what people advised me to do at the time, and it was terrible advice. We were in different states, so like I decided. I grew up in a very Christian background, like a very evangelical, super conservative background where dating
Right.
wasn't allowed. So it's a little weird. So
Okay.
first it's getting over my upbringing where like dating's bad and that kind of thing.
Right.
It's very weird. It's just something psychologically I've had to get over. I've asked people out, but I didn't really like them. Like they're wonderful people, but I didn't want to be with them.
Yeah. So
And
I'm talking about asking out someone that you really like,
yeah,
and
and that I haven't really done directly
right.
because I wait too long.
Yeah. So that's what I mean. Like
But I don't like feel comfortable. Like it's hard to explain. Like looking back, I knew that I would have wanted to be with them,
yeah.
but at the time, I was far too. The idea of dating them would have been like kind of horrifying because I would have felt, I don't know, controlled or um like when I was in college way back in the day, there's somebody I liked at my school, but she was a lot older than me. Like I was a high schooler going to college, and she was a college student. Like because I was going to college a little bit early,
Yeah.
free classes and everything. So I was like a 17-year-old, and I really liked this 19, 20-year-old. I didn't feel good enough for her because I was so young.
Right.
And like I didn't own a car. I didn't even have my driver's license. I was like carpooling to college. So it wasn't until I was actually in college and going to a different school that I felt confident enough to like ask her out. So I sent her some letters, and I realized later that she didn't really like me back. The vibe was off. She started dating somebody else, and I felt okay about it. That was one person I would have felt good dating. But when I was going to the same school as her, I was this little 17-year-old and I just didn't feel confident enough. Like, how am I supposed to go on a date with her? I can't even drive a car. Like, I'm
Right.
gonna have someone drive me there. This is before Uber. So, um, yeah. So that was one case, and there's one other person in college that I liked a lot, but she had just gotten over a breakup, so I decided not to ask her out because I didn't want to be a rebound. And since then, I think there's been two people I've really liked, but um, there were things about it that just weren't right, and that like there wasn't a fit, distance, or whatever. So there's probably been four people that I've ever known that I would like actually been in a relationship with.
Okay. Gotcha.
So yeah, and the first two when I was young and stuff came up, and the second two just didn't feel right. But
I see. Okay.
three of the four are married. So
Okay.
yeah.
Sounds like you're trying to be a perfectionist while like
Yeah, it's
not,
very
not
horrifyingly perfectionist. Like,
it's like a mix of a lot of stuff. It's like being a
yeah,
perfectionist plus not wanting to close the door plus
yeah,
uh
it's bad. It's kind of embarrassing.
fearing what will happen should it happen, even though what you're thinking is probably not going to happen.
Yeah,
It's like a lot of abuse of any from what I can see, and
yeah. Or is that like catastrophizing? Or usually I would associate that with like an ISFJ, but
well,
yeah,
okay. Here's the deal, dude. Like we're both ENFP, so I know
mhm,
I know what's going on in your head too. Like,
sure,
okay, the thing with us is we can see chaos coming. Like we can see it from the future.
yeah,
The NE can see all the different things that could possibly happen to you that is
sure.
bad. Like Dave said that his old business partner was an ENFP, and he loved having an ENFP because he had a built-in scanner for his business, right?
Yeah, I just watched the interview with you and him in the back of his car.
Yeah, on his car, and then yeah, that was weird. But no, I mean,
It was a good interview though.
no, the
Your
interview was
blast was on point.
thank you, but yeah, so like yeah, we are a scanner. Like we are. That's why I think that's why we're
Yeah.
night owls too, because like we're the guard, to make sure that no one kills the tribe, right? Like we can
Yeah, that's an interesting way of putting it.
like
That's like literally been my job for a while, like working at a group home, protecting
yeah.
all these little guys.
Well, even in your, when you're playing soccer, right? You're trying to make sure that no one gets killed because they start a fight, right? So you've literally been the
Yeah,
scanner.
yeah,
You're literally the
totally.
scanner. Like you can see what's gonna happen next if they kept doing this. Like you can see uh, all the different multiple scenarios that could happen, and
Yeah,
you see
totally.
that most of them are bad, right? You know,
Yeah.
like so you're aware of it, but you're doing it in the savior state because you're like aware of it, and it's like you're not like an IJ who's like, oh, I'm gonna lock all my doors, because
No,
like
like my car's unlocked and I have keys in my car right now. So
yeah, like I've done that. Too. Like, I left the front door open. I'm like, hey, whatever.
yeah,
The
yeah,
probability of someone breaking
totally.
is super low. Like it's
Uh-huh.
so like you're aware of it. You're aware of the chaos, but it doesn't phase you. It's just kind of like, it's I see it. I can see it happening. And it doesn't phase you. So I think it goes back again to your double masculine sleep that you are like not using as much. Just because I think it's like a lack of intention. Um,
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's a huge
because like
that's
when
a
you
huge criticism I have of myself is lack of authenticity or intention.
I don't know if you're lacking authenticity. I'm not getting that vibe from you. I'm just getting the lack
What I
of
mean is like I have like very strong emotions. Like even like talking to you right now, I have tons of strong emotions. Like
right.
not negative emotions, but like I'm not I'm not describing them all. Like so when I say that, I don't mean like I'm being tricky or like Machiavellian. I just
Yeah,
mean like I'm not putting it all on the table all the time.
fair enough. No, that's fine. It is FI. Your feelings are personal, right? But
Yeah, very,
yeah,
very. Yeah.
yeah. But like for me, for example, like I don't get along with my mom. So
Mm,
one of the times I moved out, I actually told her, I moved out because I don't like you, and
yeah.
that's like me having to share my FI was really difficult and it was awkward too. But I felt better when I did it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like
Did it
when I
did it actually help with you guys in some way? Now that
well,
it was all on the table, like once you shared that, did the relationship have better boundaries or get better in any way?
My mom, I think, is consumed last. So I think that I feel like in life you have to go through a traumatic situation for you to use your fourth animal. So
Yeah.
I felt like when I said that to my mom, that was the first time she consumed something from me. And
Hmm.
and that made her cry. So I knew that it did hit her hard. Uh,
Yeah.
for me, it was something that I've wanted to say for the longest time. So for me to finally get it out instead of like that toxic thing like hanging out inside of me, I evicted it, that son of a bitch, right? And then now I
Yeah.
felt good. I felt lighter. I was like, oh, good, good. What needed to be said has been said. Whatever, what feeling I was penting up inside has been released, and I felt free. Like it's almost like liberating, you know. So it's more, you know, we talk about being controlled by other people, but sometimes it's like an emotion that's there that is controlling
Hmm.
you, and you need to evict that asshole. Otherwise, you can't uh, move forward, right? Uh,
Yeah.
like even if you, okay, the bad thing about emotion too is like, let's say you move to a different state in the US, right?
Hmm.
That feeling's still gonna be there. It's not gonna leave.
Yeah.
Just because you
Totally.
left the physical space doesn't mean you've left the issue. Or
Yeah, it's like the girl I was sending letters to. Once I moved to Michigan, but I still had feelings for her, so I started sending her letters.
yeah, and did you feel better after you started sending those
Oh,
letters?
totally. Because she didn't, after a while she stopped sending me letters back, and it wasn't like a mean thing. I just realized, no, that's a rejection. It's okay. I know that door's closed.
Yeah, and
It was that easy.
there was a completion, right? There was a sense that
Yeah, it was over. And I saw her later. We had great conversations, but I knew that it'll never be like that. She's just
yeah,
a really nice person.
yeah, there you go. So you close the door, and that
Yeah, exactly.
felt good. So um yeah, man. So I think with that sleep last, like for me, I would have never been able to talk about the sleep last stuff if I didn't go through so many traumatic situation in my life, you know,
Hmm.
emotionally wise. Um, Especially because I'm an EP like you, but I'm a DE EP, right? So even that talking about the
Yeah.
feelings was not the hardest thing for me to talk about.
Yeah.
Um, you know, so um, yeah, man. I think that's it. I think it is like the first time me and my girlfriend broke up, like I was like just freaking crying. I was taking a class because I teach fitness,
Hmm.
so I was like in this like class where I'm trying to learn how to teach osteofit, which is like an exercise for old people with bone issues.
Hmm.
And like literally at the start of the class, I'm just like crying and I'm just like trying to cover my face because like you know
Oh yeah. No, I've been in situations like that where I held it back, but like I had to do things to like hide my emotions. Like yeah, it's a difficult place to be in for sure.
right. But I also noticed that when I did cry, I felt good. It's like weird,
Yeah,
like it
totally.
felt human. I think
Hmm.
that's the best way to describe it. Yeah. Um.
Yeah, it's
So
interesting. Like, sorry for interrupting, but like, I was talking a little bit earlier about processing my mom passing away. I realized that a lot of it was actually play processing because before she passed away, her dad had died from a sudden cardiac arrest. And I had been going running, and I had like a really bad heart palpitation where my heart felt like it was going about 200 beats a minute. After going on this long run. Uh, so I got back and I talked to mom. I was like, hey, you know what? Like, I was living with my parents at the time, so this is a ways back. Um, and I talked to my mom about like, hey, do we have a genetic heart problem? You think? Like, and it led to a conversation about her like saying, like, yeah, we don't know, but I'm pretty sure my dad died from like a sudden cardiac arrest or something. They didn't have like the medical knowledge back then to know what had happened. So there have been a lot of assumptions about what had happened, but she's like, yeah, I have like, my heart rushes like and palpitates all the time. And it's, but if I had to go, like it's the way I'd want to go because like, it's not like cancer where it's long, slow, and just brutal. It's it's quick. You're just doing your thing, enjoying your life, and boom, you're gone, or you die in your sleep. So like we had like play processed it out with each other. Like me and my mom were really close. Like I moved out of my parents kind of late, and to do so, I had to kind of sneak out because I was afraid of the backlash from my parents because they wouldn't want me to leave. So like I almost had to like, and I was like working a night shift so I wouldn't see them like at all. Like and it was very enmeshed. So like I just eventually had to like bite the bullet and like almost sneak out while they're out of the state.
Yeah.
Because my mom's like an IJ and just can't let people go. But it was like also healthy in that like she was caring and not controlling, but she had lost family members, so she had a hard time letting go. Like I was born when she was 19. Um, she hadn't been married at the time, and there was just like a little bit too much enmeshment there. And our entire relationship was me doing any like things to offend her,
Yeah.
and then she was doing SI things to try to rein me in.
Yeah.
And it was always like a even back and forth. So it never got like angry and contentious, but there's always like an understanding that I'm doing things to tell you that I'm independent and you're doing things to try to like rein me back in.
Right.
So it was it took me too long to get away, but also once I had gotten away, like it like allowed us to communicate more clearly as well. Like I actually went and visited her a couple days before she died. We had a great conversation, like about things like photography and everything like that. We both loved photography, so it was like a really wonderful time. And she showed me my sister's dog that she was babysitting, and had no like I was really worried about her health, so I asked like because she had been talking about like heart stuff. So I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to the doctor. I'm fine. So I'm like, okay, I can put that worry to rest. She's going to be okay. The doctor's going to figure it out. And a couple days later, she had passed away. So the processing with her had taken place to a certain extent. So I'm realizing now that I'm not sleep processing well. I just had the opportunity to play process before it happened. So yeah, that was interesting. So yeah, definitely not safe for sleep at all. But
It's funny that I did the same thing as you. You moved out when because you're doing the night shift, and then that's when you left to a different state.
mm-hmm.
My mom went to Vegas because she went to a different state. I live in Canada, but she went to Vegas for 2 weeks. That's when I moved out too.
Yeah, no, totally. And
It's
it wasn't, yeah, I just didn't want like to be like friction or like, oh, you're leaving because you don't like us. It's like, no, I just got to get out of here. I'm a grown up.
yeah, but that's the first time I moved out 3 times because I moved back in twice. So the first time I did that, I did that what you did,
Mm-hmm.
and then the second time I moved out, it was like an anger spaz. Like I had a fight with her, and then that's when I left.
Sure.
So I felt like the first time I moved out, it was like the typical coward ENFP that runs away from problems.
Yeah.
I totally own that. I was a coward. That's why I did it. I'm glad I did it though. But like it's I. But the third time I moved out, it was like the mature way to do it. Like I went up to my mom and I said, you know what, I'm moving out. I'll visit once in a while, and that's it. Like it wasn't like there was no like energy behind it. It was just like calm and like the grown up thing to do, which is like,
Yeah.
So
Setting the boundaries.
yeah, but I don't know. I'm like whenever I'm about to do something that's very EP-ish, now I'm just thinking to myself, I'm like, wait a minute, that's you being a nuthead, like that's.
Isn't it feminine TE?
I
Like
yeah.
the non-confrontation. Like I always took my non-confrontation sort of like not maybe like I guess coward like tendencies as being FTE. Like
Yeah.
I'm not gonna fight you unless I'm absolutely 100% in a corner, and like the only way to get out of the situation is to fight. Is the like only situation I think I'll fight. I always took that as being more a feminine TE thing.
Right. Yeah, I mean it is. I mean like during the pandemic, I had a friend who I cut off with because I felt he was really toxic, and
Sure.
I did it in a double masculine SF sleep way. Like,
Oh, okay.
like
Yikes.
I told him I don't like him, and I'm never gonna talk to him again. And then I blocked him from Facebook after I said that,
Yeah, that's
and
very few times I've done anything close to that.
yeah, and then so I started practicing that more. Like it just
Yeah.
okay, double masculine sleep is or SF sleep is super aggressive, right?
Uh-huh. Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah,
Totally.
I can imagine how like aggressive yours is, but in like how brutal
Yeah,
it is.
like in sports. It comes out in sports. It comes out when in those situations where I feel cornered,
Yeah.
or am literally cornered. Like there's this one time this dude, I don't know, he was doing very like homophobic and like harassing kind of stuff. This is when
Yeah.
I was a kid. He was a young adult. I was a kid,
Yeah.
and we were about the same size, but he was like all muscular, and I was like a lanky kid.
Yeah.
But like he was like a camp staff, and I was like going to this youth camp, and I was like exhausted, so I like went to sleep, take a nap in the middle of the afternoon, and he pops in like this room like and sees me there, and it starts being really creepy. Like the vibe was bad, and like I look around like I'm alone. Like he'd always done like this kind of thing as like a joke before, and I always kind of assumed it was just to get laughs. But I'm like, okay, we're alone. He's not getting laughs. This is really creepy. Like I'm about to get assaulted, and like he starts like coming towards me. He's like, dude, you like touch this bunk bed, you get in here, stuff's gonna happen. Like bad things are gonna happen.
Yeah.
And then he got in. I'm like, holy crap. Okay, it's fight time. And we just like, I like was choking him out. And like, we got so discombobulated. Like half of our, like, we like ended up going through a window. It was
Wow.
scary. But like, he was like a lot stronger than me too. I was just like a lanky, no muscle 16-year-old kid.
Yeah.
And then like, I basically had him in a complete headlock. So I was like, hey, you know what? We're like, there's broken glass everywhere. This is kind of weird. I'm going to let you go, but you have to promise that you're going to get the heck out of here. And like, so what am I going to do? Headlock him or choke him out? Or I probably couldn't have if I wanted to, but like, it was like really weird. So like he left and I was relieved and I start walking, and I didn't really realize this till later, but I was walking towards his dad, who was like in his 40s or 50s, and a couple other like counselor type people. And I think he thought I was going to like tattle on him. He just comes running down and just like tackles me from behind, and just like I go down this like staircase. It was like concrete and everything. It was really crazy. And then like I kind of like I didn't really I was like so young and so like ignorant that I didn't really know what was going on. So I just did whatever I could to get the fight to stop. But later he jumped me again, and I like grabbed him, I headlocked him, I put him under the water because he jumped me like in like the swimming area,
Yeah.
and I put him under the water, and I counted I think like 40. Like it's like I don't want to like cause brain damage and I want to kill him, but I've got to let him know if he ever messes with me again, not to. So
Yeah.
I just like count to 40, and then I let him up, and he leaves, and he never bothered me again. So it's just like, okay, that's what has to happen. That's what has to happen.
Right.
But there's this other guy in college who was always calling me slurs and stuff. I don't know. Like, I think it's maybe the double feminine play. A lot of people assume I'm gay, which I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just like I'm not gay. So it's like this one guy was like harassing me, and he was a big wrestler guy.
Yeah.
So he like grabbed a guy, this other wrestler who was like trash talking him, and like basically put him in a submission, and then like farted in his face. So like this guy's an aggressive, mean guy.
Yeah.
Later, he's like harassing me and calling me slurs and stuff. And in the lunch line, he calls me gay, or he says something to me. I'm like, okay, this is a big guy. If I don't do things right, he could destroy me. He's huge physically, but I just grab him by his ass and I rip him in half. Like I pick him up off the ground, and like just like made sure I left a bruise, and like he never called me another name again. Just like it had to be like he was a little upset. It's like, whoa, that was like really intense. It's like, hey, you know what? You said what you said. So like, if you want to play that game, we'll play that game. He never bothered me since, so must have worked. So
Man, I think that fucking SF sleep is it's nuts because it's like very animalistic, right? Like
very
humans understand like that, like what you did to that dude or like the other dude. Like you are quick to understand that no words need to be said. You do that animalistic thing, that what you did.
yeah.
It's a very aggressive way to set boundaries, but it works. It's the most effective way to, you know.
And it wouldn't have been so bad if it wasn't a demon, and if I had like set those boundaries earlier. Like it got way out of hand because I let it get out of hand for so long.
Yeah. Right. I mean, I guess it's like the lack of setting boundaries too. Like
Yeah.
early on, like you should.
Too much of a nice guy.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
and then I'm really mean. So it's just like, yeah, it's a little unfair.
Yeah, and it catches people off guard, right? Because then
Yeah, totally.
you didn't give any warning signs, you know.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, yeah. You're just like this timid guy. Suddenly, this like wolf comes out and like just rips their head off, right?
Yeah.
You know, completes the. Yeah, no, I totally relate to that, man. I don't set boundaries too. Like that's like a big issue that I've also struggled with until I cut off my friends, until I directly just like told them, hey, you know what? I don't like you. Fuck off. Delete. You know, like it's
Yeah, I've unfortunately done that. Like the door slam or the, I don't know, whatever you call it. Just the masculine FI, like hits very emotionally. I'm not logical at all.
yeah.
Megan Kelly was a good class for that, I think. Or should be nice, and then just all of a sudden, next thing you know, you're a war criminal.
Yeah, I think every single person I've done that to were a decider too. They weren't like double deciders or like observers. I mean, they were all double deciders.
Yeah,
They were all deciders. Like,
probably. Yeah, I think I hang out with a lot of deciders.
yeah, the person I cut off was an EJ, and I have an IP friend that I cut off every year. Like when the moment I know he's fucking like screwing up my life, then I
Mm-hmm.
cut him off for a year, and I don't talk to him for a year. You know, and then like I see him try to talk to my friends to try to like give the olive branch. You know, but like I don't know if you do this with your SF sleep, but I put people in categories. I'm like, okay, this person is a good friend, but this person's toxic, so I'll only see this person once a year. And this person's uh toxic, and I know he's trying to screw me over again. So I won't talk. Like my automatic reaction to that, like I kind of created like part of sleep is like conserving energy too, right? So like having like an automatic like response, like do this. This is the result, right? So for me, I'm like, this person is an asshat, and if he does this to me, I won't talk to him for a year. You know, this person, I like this person, so I'll see him on birthdays and Christmas only, or like something like that. You know, like it's so this person I like a lot, so I'll open my schedule and spend time with this
Yeah,
person. They're cool with it, if because they're cool. You know, so do you set those parameters for yourself?
I don't think I'm that organized about it. I think it's more like sort of an emotional barometer, like whether or not I can feel like I can handle this person or not, and it kind of comes on suddenly. Like there are some people who wanted to talk to me after my mom passed away, and I just couldn't handle them. And it wasn't even that they were bad people or that they're going to screw me over or anything. It's just that I felt intuitively that I couldn't handle it, and I would like talk with like siblings about it and kind of like vent to them and get more emotional and share my feelings. And they try to give me. I think a lot of my family are STs, ESTJs maybe, or NT ESTJs. I don't know for sure, but especially my sisters. Um, and So they'll start giving me like ideas or like specific advice, like things to do, and I'll be like, no, the barometer just like there's too much pressure here. I can't see this person. Like it'd be too painful, it'd be too extreme. I just don't want to see them, so I'm not going to. And then I'll make the decision like in the moment. Like that pressure was there before. Like if they had asked me earlier, it would have been like the same reaction. But I didn't plan ahead of time not to see them. It's just once they, started texting me or DMing me about like being there for me, I just knew I couldn't like let them in close. So I just didn't. I felt in the moment like no, it's just I can't do it. Like it didn't feel right, and it wasn't so much a rejection of them either. It was just I just didn't feel right, and kind of felt like drawing the line, I guess.
Well, it sounded like they wanted to FE, but then you wanted to process your feelings yourself. So
Yeah, no. I think the people I was thinking of specifically, I do think were FE users.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because like I noticed with FE people, when I do share my feelings with them, it's like normal. They're like, oh, okay, cool. Like it's not like weird or anything. It's just like normal, because like feelings are not personal to them,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. It's hard to say.
Yeah.
It's hard to say because I think they have some the DI issues, but yeah, they're probably a lot better
Well,
dealing with emotions and openly than me.
I find FI to be quite interesting because with FE there is like the right and wrong emotion to share. You know,
Sure. Okay.
just like especially if you're dealing with an ESFJ or ISFJ where they would SF blast you, that's the wrong way to behave or that's not the right way to
Hmm.
feel. But like I have an example. Like I have relatives in the Philippines. I was born there. Like I grew up in
Okay.
Canada, but I was close to one of my cousins, and I don't know what type she is until recently when I finally like saw her again when like I'm older and I realized I'm like, oh my god, she's so controlling. I wonder if she's an IJ, you know. And she talks in a lot of like analogies and into it. So I'm like, okay, she's probably an INTJ. No wonder I got along with her really well.
Yeah.
Um, and I remember I would say the most offensive thing to her that you should probably not say to someone that is like hosting you in their home. You know,
Uh-huh.
like number one, she married someone that I know she didn't love because she only married him to please her mom because he was rich, right? Like the guy is like freaking like 12 years older than her, and he's kind of like a don't want. He's kind of like a wimp. He's like a weak man,
Yeah.
Uh,
Okay.
and
Hey, some people like weak men. They're the strong ones.
I don't think she does though. I think
Okay. Yeah.
I think she's double feminine. She would probably be attracted to someone that's like double masculine or something. But
Sure.
anyway, I asked her, I'm like, do you love him? You know, and she like pauses and she's like, I learned to love him. I'm like, that's no, like,
Oh
oh,
no. Yeah.
that's no, or like, and she's like super Christian, right? Because I grew up in Philippines.
Uh-huh.
Philippines is like a Christian heavy country.
Yeah.
When I moved to Canada, I gave up faith. Like I'm no longer Christian. Like
Sure.
I'm not atheist. I'm agnostic. But like,
Okay.
so I told her, I'm like, hey, stop feeding me this Christian stuff. I'm not interested. You
Yeah.
know, So I'm like just like attacking her beliefs and stuff nonstop, right? And then like when I left Philippines, and then my sister came to talk to her, she said to my sister, I loved it when Kendrick was here because
Uh-huh.
he said it how it is, and I loved it.
Yeah.
She's like so
Yeah.
sick. She's so sick of like bullshit, like inauthentic conversation. Like I just said it. I don't know if that's my double masculine sleep that was into play, but I just said how it is. Like I just, like I'm not there to ruin her vibe or anything. Like I said
Yeah.
that because I cared about her actually, but like it came out really like offensive, But
Or your demon NF was really worried maybe it came out as offensive, but you're still gonna say what you're gonna say,
well,
like in a savior state.
I'm feminine TE, so
Sure.
I'm gonna be worried what the tribe thinks.
Worried about
I'm gonna be
sure.
like
Okay.
tippy toeing right and shit.
Okay.
But then I felt like okay, she's family. I can tell she's tough. I know she's been through a lot of shit, like
Hmm.
worse than I've kind of shit I've dealt with.
Okay.
If anyone can handle it, she can. Like her
Okay.
masculine FI is probably the most solid in the world. You
Sure.
know, I if I were to guess, she has masculine and I also like she her future is so set. She refuses to see any other paths. It's like so, and she's a freaking blaster too. She's like blasting nonstop. Like when you talk to her, sometimes it's kind of annoying because instead of like having a like a real human conversation, she's giving blaster lessons. I'm like, oh, fuck, stop, just stop your damn blaster lessons.
Sure.
But yeah, at that point, I think when I did say that, like it like destroyed the blast. The blast is like the force field. So I like obliterated the blast and I got like straight to the point, which is like the FI. Let's go share our FIs. Like
Okay.
you know, and that's what I want when I talk to people. I'm like, okay, I want the real you. I don't want this bullshit stuff that you are
Yeah.
about to feed me. Let's get to the
Yeah. And I think that's like a huge thing for me too. Like I was talking about not liking dating earlier, but like I really like film, and I like films like by Andrei Tarkovsky that really get into the deep spiritual stuff. Um, because like I was raised Christian and everything like that, but a lot of my spirituality kind of changed. Like I'm still a Christian, but it was very like personal to me, and I didn't like going to church. If that makes any sense. And I really only could get along with other people where their TI or their FI was going to let me talk about spiritual things that I was interested in. Like that's the only way it could be romantically interesting for me. Like it's one thing if it's just like one of the guys and we're just friends and everything like that. But like I can't just imagine going on like a dating app and just meeting with anybody and then like not being able to do what I really like to do, like and talk about like with women. It was just like spiritual stuff, like weird, very NF hippie things.
okay,
And like so like you get a lot of these ENFPs who like tarot cards and stuff.
okay,
Like I don't like tarot card reading, I don't like palm reading, I don't like most like or crystals or stuff like that. They look cool, but like talking about different Christian hippie stuff like or like Soren talking about like philosophers like Soren Kierkegaard, or talking about movies that I think are spiritual like a Tarkovsky movie or Ingmar Bergman movie. That's like where my hippie stuff goes into. So like yeah, if I'm not like able to have like a melding of the FIs with somebody,
yeah.
I'm not gonna have fun. I guess it's weird.
With your NF, because it's first,
Yeah,
it's gonna be the same problem that I have with my NT. So your NF has no brakes. It's freaking like overloaded, right? Like
totally. Yeah.
My NF is third, so I do like NF conversation, but when I know it's getting too like not head, that and I'll hit the brakes, right? Like I'm like, okay, this is crazy talk now. There's no like there's no conclusion that we can come up with here that is actually useful
I
in real
get
life.
well, I get angry when people come to conclusions. It's like the big thing between me and my brother. My brother, I think, is a consume less ISTP. I'm not 100% sure,
Okay.
but so like be very close to being a type 10 with like Dan Hall from the group.
Okay.
I think I'm not 100% sure, but I think we're both intuitives, and he's very smart. Like he was like the best. Like when he does something, he like could be the best in the world at it. Like he was really into Age of Empires 3, like a very specific game mode of it, and he was either ranked second or first in the world
Wow.
when he was a teenager, and
Wow.
he was like using a crappy laptop. But
That's amazing.
so he's like very proficient, and he's very confident and kind of like cocky. Um, but it's just this weird dynamic where like I'll never be good at things, but I'll like know a lot,
Yeah.
and he'll never know a thing but be good at something. And like we were talking about the Derek Chauvin case here in Minnesota. That's where I live, in Minnesota. So where that police officer um, was found guilty of murdering that guy on the like where he knelt on his knee on his neck. Me and my brother were talking about it, and my brother like agreed with me, but he came to like a really quick conclusion and gave like a really simple like maybe NI answer as to why he
Yeah.
felt the way he felt. And I got mad at him because it was a conclusion. And it's like, but you haven't like gone through all these other possibilities yet. And we actually got like in this weird fight about it. It was really embarrassing.
So what is it about like coming to a conclusion that would trigger you? Like why do you need to explore in such I mean I like exploring, but I like to close the loop. You don't want to close the loop, which seems to be the story of your life. Like
Yeah,
Nathan doesn't want to close the loop. Like that is the story of your life.
right.
So,
Exactly. No, you
why-
100%.
so why don't you want to close the loop in
Because
like
you might get surprised if you close the loop and you make a conclusion, you don't look at all the possibilities, you're gonna get surprised, and you're gonna be like, oh, I didn't see that coming. My brother, who is a genius, extremely smart, whenever something surprises him, is like, oh, but I thought, or I didn't know. Like this is like his like rallying. Whenever something like surprise to him surprising happens,
yeah.
he'd be like, oh well, I didn't think that was possible. And I'm like, well, I thought it was possible, man. I also thought 10 other things were possible, but so I don't know. He's always surprised. I never feel surprised. He's always coming to conclusions, getting really good at something,
Yeah.
focusing. I think he's either a TI NI or an NI TI, something like that. He's great at that kind of thing, dude.
Why do you think he has TI?
Um
Why not like
mostly
why not an
mostly
INTJ or something?
an INTJ.
Yeah,
I
why not?
thought about that, but like he's good at rallying like the troops to get them to do something with him, and it feels like FE. Like, hey, everybody, value this with me. Like, let's all get together for a LAN party. It's gonna be fun. You guys should all. He also seems to like punch with like feelings, but it's not like FI. Like, I'm like angry, but like well, like when we get together to play board games, it's like table talk board games, like strategy games,
Yeah.
and he'll never like punch with the facts. Like he'll never lay out the facts.
Okay.
He always lay out like Nathan's a bad guy, so he won the last 3 games, so we should just beat up on him. It's like, but like the facts are that I'm actually not in the strongest position, and that this other guy's in the strongest position, so we should all gang up on them. Don't gang up on me. I'm gonna lose. No, I'm really gonna lose if you guys are all ganging up on me. My brother though, he gets in, he knows I think the spectrum of people's emotions. I think he's blast second.
Okay.
And he's good at building a vibe. And
Wait,
like
let me ask you a question. You can't
go
tell
ahead.
people's feelings?
I can tell what people's feelings are.
Yeah, so how like so you are aware of the spectrum. You know people's FIs. Like you can see it.
Oh yeah, totally. But like he sets the tone in a way that I don't. And then like he'll be surprised by like something emotional, like, oh, I didn't see that coming. But he's really good at like rallying the troops or like setting a tone. I don't know.
Okay.
I think he just comes at the NF differently than me. I could be wrong. I could be
I
totally
feel like
wrong.
PE people are better rallying the troops than the FE people. You know,
You think?
it's different. Like I feel like with FE people, they like to have like dialogues. You know, let's have a group dialogue. You know, share our feelings and
Sure.
kind of stuff. While T is more like let's get a job done. So in your story, let's get a job done by making you the bad guy so we can so
He
he
might be more of a TE than you're thinking.
so he can win because then
Yeah.
he'll eliminate you as a threat because you're the asshat who can see all the different possibilities. So if he eliminates you, then there's no one that can like
Oh yeah, and he's always out to take me out early too. Like
I have a friend who's a TI lead, right? So uh, he'll try to take me out first too.
mhm,
Because I have the NE, right? I'm the only threat.
sure.
So, uh,
Yeah. Well, it's also like an emotional thing. We're brothers, so
I guess so.
he wants to assert dominance. He
Okay,
wants to be
that makes sense. Yeah, I guess you could say he could be TINI or NITI. I mean, it's hard to say. Like
yeah.
it's
He could be a lot. I just established earlier that like I type people backwards, so I could have them completely backwards. So
yeah. I'm just like puzzling it in my head. I'm like
totally.
so you are obsessed with the NF. I'm obsessed with the NT, right? So I'm always
Sure.
like and like for both of us, our NT is play. So we puzzle people, right? Like I don't know if you like have you ever hosted an event or have you gathered people together to do something or have you hired people or recruited people? Like I
Never hired or recruited. Like I've never really been supervisor level at a job.
it doesn't have to be
But
supervisor.
like I used to get together, pick up soccer games a lot and gather people together
Were you,
that
were you
way.
were you good at it?
Um, I would say no, but actually, I mean, I was probably okay. I got this one team together for a league and I signed us up for the wrong day.
Okay, that's an SI problem, but it's not.
Yeah, no, it was so embarrassing.
But
But I
you
got the team together and we
yeah,
we
that's what
we
I meant.
finished the season.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, so you're probably better than you think. Uh,
It's very
like
stressful though.
because you haven't actually seen someone that's actually better at it. Like let's say you get a TI person to organize something. Oh my god, that is
Sure. Okay.
yeah yeah.
Yeah, so my brother's good at organizing things, way better than me. So maybe he's TE. Like
Yeah,
he'll get the game nights together. Um, he's always organizing something. Maybe it's Savior State. And when he was into video games more, he was always organizing clans and he was the leader of clans and stuff. So
EJ-ish also. He's like an EJ-ish kind of person.
yeah, yeah. I always kind of thought of him as introverted, but maybe he does all his extroversion online. So maybe he's an EJ.
Yeah,
I don't think he picks up on vibes very much though. So maybe low NF of some kind. I don't know.
yeah,
Like he's always surprised. Like if I'm feeling something and I tell him what I was feeling, he's like, "Oh, I didn't see it coming at all." And then I'll tell him like, "Oh, like he'll if he likes somebody, like if I notice him liking a woman or something like that, like I'll know like I was like, "Oh yeah, I noticed you like this person," and I'll say when. It's like, "Oh, I didn't even like her yet." Yeah, but you were going to. And like my sisters, I have two sisters who one's dating very seriously, one's married, and I told him like, oh yeah, I knew you guys liked each other right away. It's like, oh when? It's like, oh the first time is when your now husband asked for your number. Is like, oh we didn't like each other. Yeah, yeah, but I knew that's where it was going.
yeah,
Like it was different. Like I knew, yeah, because I like the guy who now is my brother-in-law
yeah.
asked me for her number. I'm like, one, you should never be asking me. Like, you should be asking her. And so I go to her, is like, do you want to give him your number? And she's like, yeah, sure. I'm like, okay, here we go. And then my other sister who's dating a guy, like we went to this big like friend get together. We have a lot of the same friends. Um, and I was like sitting in my car and I was looking in the car mirror and she was talking to him by his motorcycle. And I'm like, oh, here we go. And they're like, oh, we didn't even like each other yet. It's like, yeah, you did. Stop lying to me.
I think you can pick up the animalistic connection right from the get go, and you can
Yeah, it's like, and I honestly think these people are kind of more on the ST zone. So it's like, yeah. And they're always saying that like, oh wow, that was really what you just said was interesting, but or sounded interesting, but I don't really know what you're talking about. Like I'll get that a lot. Like that didn't really make sense,
yeah.
or that doesn't really add up. Like that doesn't seem very logical. Uh, there's a few women I've liked that are always like, that's not logical, Nathan.
Well, it's not logical. So
Yeah.
it's not.
Yeah. I'll hear like that doesn't make sense if that's not logical. Or it's like, or did you really think that through? Like, yeah, I did.
Well,
It's
probably
fun.
probably came from the moment because it's NEFI, right? But
Yeah, probably.
yeah, yeah. Now you're like an oracle then. Like I kind of did that too. Like when I play basketball with my friends, like I know which strategy would work on my ST friend because I'm like,
Sure.
I can see the pattern and then I can just
Mhm.
pivot to the right one. So I guess that's our superpower, right? Is tripping the NI users is our superpower because
Okay.
they'll go all in. Like I mean, David Chance, or Dave said in one of his videos, he said he can beat all types except for ENFPs and ENTPs, right? Because they can
He has
see.
a brother who's an ENFP, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, I'd be interested. Like, if you ever did a class and like talked about his like sibling relationships, that'd be really interesting.
yeah. I think he said his dad is an ISTP or something, or yeah, something like that, TINI, and then his mom is an ESFJ jumper. So
Okay.
yeah, something like that. And then like so yeah, so like the NE people can see what the NI people are doing, right? And we can see how he's gonna mess up, right? But our problem then is, yeah, they could mess up, but if they team up with an N or someone that's an EP, the EP can be their scanner,
Yeah.
and they can keep building because we don't have anything built. Like, do you have anything built long term? Like you probably have nothing, like me, you know?
Oh no, I'm terrible. Yeah, no, you yeah, totally nailed me. My long term, I don't have debt really anymore, which is great.
Um, that's a big victory.
Yeah, like um but yeah, I don't really have much by way of savings. Like I have like I've been building my art skills. Like usually when I build something, it's like I'm trying to build my skills.
Right, right.
Um, and like I have some photography gear that I could probably sell, and I have some music gear that I could probably sell, but it doesn't amount to much. And I probably couldn't get back what I put into it.
Yeah,
Though I probably could get like camera lenses and music gear doesn't depreciate as badly as say like a car.
yeah,
And my car is I got it for free and it's held together with zip ties. So like if it lit on fire right now, I mean it'd be like zero loss. The cost would be just finding a new car.
yeah.
Um, so like yeah, you're right. I'm renting. I have nothing built for myself. I'm in bad shape, but I'm free, and that's what matters.
But are you?
Yeah, yeah, no, that's not at all. Totally. My dad, who is probably an NI, he has a business built. He has tons of residual income.
Yeah,
He has two properties up north. He I think has his house paid off,
yeah,
and like he could literally not work, and he has residual income coming in. So like when like the 2008 economic hardships, when we had the huge crash, when
yeah,
just before Bush left office here in the U.S., um, and then the COVID crash, he's good to go. He's got all his equity, his residual income. He didn't really catch on till he was like 40.
yeah,
But once he caught on and once he found his like NI, what I'm assuming is NI thing, he just got his little system down. But then like I'll go into his office and he's putting up new cubicles. I'm like, hey, Dad, you realize the way you're building these cubicles is like no way to get out if there's like a fire. He's
yeah,
like, oh, it'll be fine. Like you might be fine, but you should at least like check to see if it's up to code because like, I don't know how strong these windows are, but like if there's a fire, the only way out is through this window. And it looks like plexiglass to me. So like, do you want to bang through this window? And he's the kind of person that he'll like put a fridge in like the back of his trailer. And this is a trip I didn't take with him. So I like that's probably why what happened. But he's driving down and it hits a bump and the momentum takes the fridge, like the fridge is strapped from the sides. So it shoots like a cannon out into the highway
yeah,
because there's nothing strapped over the top of it. So the momentum, he's going 40 miles an hour and all it needs to do is bump. And then it's
yeah,
taking on the inertia of the vehicle it was driving with. So
yeah,
it's just this missile going down the highway. And it's like, everyone's thankful that no one died. But like if I had been there, I've been like, hey, it looks like that fridge is a cannon. And he's always the guy like, no, it's fine. It's fine. I'm like, no, really, I think this is actually like a serious problem. Like, but 90% of the time, nothing's wrong. And I'm just freaking out.
Well, it sounds like your dad's like an INTJ with like SE at the bottom and doesn't respect the sensory chaos. That's why all this shit's happening to him. And you know,
Yeah, I think he's. Can you hear me right now?
I can hear you. Yeah,
Go. Okay, good. It's like sometimes my computer locks up and then it ruins my
yeah.
other
It
people have lost
sounds like you're
contact
just
with me.
an INTJ, like good with money, right? Like good with like building.
Yeah. I kind of think he's a decider. He talks about people a lot. So, but INTJ or ENTJ maybe.
Yeah, okay, ENTJ could be, but it sounds like the problem that you described to me doesn't sound like something that would happen to an ENTJ. You know that
Sure. Okay.
the fridge cannon. That sounds like an INTJ being a dumbass with like things.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think he's demon masculine SE.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
he's a really good athlete, and he's built like a cannonball. He's not like tall and skinny like Dave or anything like that.
Masculine then.
He's very like he's a super masculine, super punchy with people.
Double masculine INTJ.
Yeah, or yeah, something like that. I personally think it's NI. He's also he doesn't like letting people onto this, but I'll visit his house every once in a while. I try to visit him once a week,
Yeah.
and I'll come over and he'll have like conspiracy videos on his big screen TV that he's watching on YouTube. And every once in a while, like when none of my other siblings are around, he'll start like talking about 5G and stuff.
Oh my god.
So yeah. Um
Definitely an IJ. Like INTJ, probably an INTJ from the sound of the your story.
yeah, but he's talk about good at business. Yeah, and really getting it down as far as and feminine FI. Like he's so feminine FI, it's crazy. Just giggly and um just like doesn't want to share like shares like actually I like I like or like if he ever gets hot fudge sundae cake is like feminine FI is just like he's like a
Yeah,
little girl
I've seen
getting
that.
his hot fudge sundae cake.
It's so funny when I see the feminine FI is the funniest. Like I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Uh, man, I hate that paradox in life though, because like if you are an EP, you want to have like the best life experiences, right? And like especially a lot of the best life experience you experience when you're young. So why would you want
Yeah.
to do
Okay.
it when you're like wasting your youth, right? And then the
Sure.
IJ is the opposite. You know, a lot of them has consumed last, so they don't experience anything fun in their life. They're just building, 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 accumulating wealth, which is good. They're all it's a smart thing to do. But then
Yeah.
you get to the age where you're 60, you're now rich, and now you're like, you look back to your life like I've done nothing. I have no life experience. I have
Yeah.
nothing. I'm now old and I have nothing. Like I have money, but I have no experience. You know?
Yeah. See, my dad does have a lot if he would just kind of like reach out for it and or like settle down. Like he has the properties up north. He has the kids. He's devastated because he lost his wife. Like so he's coming to terms with that. So like he's the INTJ who's built all this and he was finally coming into all the things he was building and working towards.
Yeah.
And then his wife passes away
Exactly.
suddenly. And
Exactly.
then it's like, but it was just about to get good. And
Yeah.
so it's devastating.
And that's the problem.
And yeah.
Yeah, that kind of shit happens all the time. Like health problems, some people die.
Hmm.
Whatever you envisioned, it's gone. You can't do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Life is more fun when you're doing it with somebody that you care about. So
Hmm. Yeah.
it's like IPs, right? They built themselves out to be like the superhero. You get like they're 60 now, they have no friends. There's no one to share with. There's nobody. No one even cares about your achievement because no one likes you, right? You know.
Yeah.
And then EJs, for example, they wasted their whole life doing things for other people, right? So when they look back in their life, that wasn't me. Like that was like it's so everyone has like an issue, right? Because like
Yeah.
so for us it's like we have nothing built. Like you said, you have like both of us we have financial problems, right? It's like yeah, neither
Yeah.
of us,
Totally.
we don't have any debt, but we also don't have anything built. Like like
Yeah, no, maybe within like myself, but yeah, as far as like property or residual income or supporting a family,
yeah.
that yeah, this like reason number million not to date is just like, oh man, if I date and get married, how and I'll get kids and like how will I feed them? I'll have to like be a real adult and work more and I'd hate that.
You know what? I don't think you would actually. I
Yeah,
think
probably not. It probably wouldn't be as bad as I think it
I
is.
think because when you work on your like worst demon, that's actually when you feel the best. You know?
Yeah, like I'm working in the adult foster care homes. It's like when I'm serving other people and like kind of like on a schedule, it's actually really nice. It's like I'm doing SI things at the group home, like making people dinner
Yeah.
and like cleaning the house and stuff. It's like I wouldn't mind being an ISFJ. This kicks ass. It's
Yeah.
awesome. So yeah, it's an irrational fear. It's a totally irrational fear.
I mean, I can't tell you how many times, like right now, I have 2 YouTube channels, right? I have like the ENFP Male, I have the travel one.
Yeah.
I can't tell you, like, there are days I'm spending like 12 hours on a video nonstop, just organizing known information. I just want to shoot myself. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like there's something in my neck like choking me. I feel like my
Uh-huh.
back of my neck is hurting. I'm like trying to put together this like explainer video on, like, right now I'm working on the sleep series, and then I'm like, fucking hate it so much. I hate it with all my heart. Um, and I'm on a strict schedule too, like 6 YouTube videos a week, no fail. I like interviews because they're easy, right? I just do the interview and then I just upload them, done. But
Yeah.
like,
No editing or anything. That's great.
yeah, exactly. But like, I also know that the kind of videos that people want from me are the damn explainer videos. Those are the ones that are popular. Those are the ones that people want to hear from someone that doesn't talk about this kind of stuff. No one wants to
Well,
hear. No one wants to hear the INTJs blast because they blast it all day, right? They want to
uh-huh.
hear INTJs talk about what they consume, or like with the EPs.
Yeah.
You want the EP to blast because they don't blast. They probably know a lot of shit.
Well, you've been consuming all these videos and doing all the play energy with all these videos. So when you do come to those explainer videos, you probably have a lot of like real life information to go off of. It's not just theory. So yeah, like I've watched, I think 2 of your explainer videos and they were really thorough. Like I think I watched the SF sleep last one and
Yeah.
yeah, it was good. Now that I know that I'm sleep last, I need to watch it again.
Oh, thanks. Thanks, dude. Yeah, man. It's. I mean, now I'm talking to you. I'm like, I learned some more dimension to sleep last, dude. I'm like, oh, that. See, that's the problem with the EP. We're always trying to upgrade shit, right? Like,
Yeah.
like it's never enough. Like, we have to keep upgrading information, keep upgrading information. So yeah, I made that sleep last, like, video. In the future, I probably have to make like an updated version, or at least like a smaller updated version, because there's like
Yeah,
some.
I met the worst sleep last just the other day. Oh, I gotta really update it now.
Yeah, talking Nathan, like, just playing all the time and zilch with the, you know.
Yeah, it's like an episode of Hoarders or whatever. Like you thought you come with the worst hoarder or the worst like or the worst like the filthiest house or whatever. You came to the worst sleep lasts, and
Yeah.
now all your sleep last material has to be updated.
Yeah, exactly. Jeez. But yeah, dude. But no, dude. It's never gonna end, man. Like the information update is never gonna end. So I think we have to like just put something out there, for you, like whatever you're doing with your finance, right? Like, you need to start depositing money, invest in something, even if it's shit, right? Because
Yeah, like I should have Robinhood or something like it.
I don't know if you know Josh from the class, like one of the INTJs.
McRae.
Yeah, McRae. I don't know if you've spoken to him, but
I've seen the interview, but I don't know him personally. I've seen some of his interviews at least.
okay, he's like a really bad blaster, right? Like, I mean, when I say bad, I mean he just nonstop blast, kind of like Raja, right? They're just blasting nonstop. They just blast after blast after blast after blast.
Okay.
Sometimes, like outside those blasts, there are some good stuff nuggets in there. It's like, for example, for him, he runs his own business. So when he does blast about shit, I take him seriously because he does. It's not like theory that he's saying. It is theory, but he uses it in practice, and he does have a thriving business in the fitness industry.
Okay.
I take it seriously. I don't like when people blast something to me, but I look at the character and they have just nothing. Then I don't take them seriously. So I really look at the person first, see if they're actually like doing something with this information that they're blasting. So the fact that he's like doing pretty well in his own business, I think is advice seriously. And one of the things he said is like, life, the biggest teacher in life is failure. So why should you tippy-toe around? I'm paraphrasing, obviously, tippy-toe around and fail once a year, when you can take 1 year's worth of failure into two weeks, and you can learn 1 year's worth of lesson in 2 weeks. you know um and then I'm like, fuck, that is so true. That's so true. So I mean, obviously that's a general statement, because the NIT blast is very general, right? But if like with us, we the good thing about ENFPs is we do have ST blast. So our blast, when you do get the chance to use it, luckily for me, I have it in a savior state. You have it third, so you have access to it. We can come up, we can take what those guys are saying, distill it down to ST, and then make something out of it. So for me, like during the pandemic, I hired so many people on Fiverr to like do stuff for me, because I realized I'm trying to do everything in my business. And I took this personality test with Gallup called Builder Profile 10, which is a personality test for business, for people who want to start their own business or
Okay.
career. It said that my lowest skill set is independence. Apparently, I should not run a business by myself. Like that would be like the biggest crime I could commit. And
Okay.
I look at I have two businesses, right? The YouTube channel, travel and ENFP Male. And I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? I'm running them both by myself. No wonder I've only had minuscule growth. Like ENFP Male is growing faster than my travel one now. But that's a different story on its own, because Dave said that when you love something, that's the worst business to be in, because you're gonna be too That's gonna be too perfectionist about it. He said actually your side business that you don't care as much about is gonna do better because you're thinking about it objectively as opposed to emotionally.
Sure. So you're saying that the travel business is your sole passion or like your core passion, and then like the personality thing is kind of what you have going on the side.
I like both of them, but travel is my passion. That's where my heart
Yeah.
is. While the personality stuff, I enjoy it. It's a hobby, but it's second place to the travel stuff. It's
Okay.
not the main one. So I'm a more objective when it comes to the ENFP male stuff. And that's why I think it's growing even faster. Because I'm like, okay, this is what people want. Okay, I'll give you what you want. Like they said, no,
Sure.
like right now I'm getting like harassed by people. Hey, where's that NF sleep video? You said you're gonna make that. Where is it? I'm like, oh, okay, fine. I'll work on that thing. Fine. I'll, whatever. Uh, so I'm objective about it. I'm like, okay, this is what people want. I'll just give them what they want. Fuck it. Like this, I'm not gonna overthink it. Well, with travel stuff, people want me to make specific videos on credit cards. I'm like, I don't want to make that shit. I want to make this video instead. So it's growing, but
Your FI's in it more.
yeah, exactly, which is bad. But anyway,
Yeah.
so I did the Gallup shit, and it said that I shouldn't be independent. So I went to Fiverr, and I went on a massive Fiverr hiring spree. I literally had like a one point like 10 freelancers like working for me.
Okay.
Which was a huge learning experience.
Huh.
Double decider, so obviously I'm going to be pretty good with people. So this is going to be like a superpower for you as well. But
Yeah. I don't always feel that way, oddly enough, but yeah.
yeah, so I was like, and I learned so much, man. I was like so shocking. I was like, okay, I'm gonna hire this one person to help me with my Pinterest account and manage my Pinterest account. I'm gonna have one person to manage my YouTube marketing. I'm gonna have one person build my website. I'm gonna have one person help me with TikTok. And I'm like, so I have like all this like, and I have one person for graphic design for Pinterest. I have one person for what was it? Graphic design for my YouTube banner. So I'm like hiring like shitload of people to work for me, and like they're doing their shit. And I'm just kind of like seeing, okay, let's see where this goes. Let's see what happens. And I'm kind of seeing like where, like when I get pissed off, like the worst people to hire is the consume last, because I had a consume last guy like work on my website, and everything I made it as SD clear as possible, and he didn't do half of it because he's fucking consume last, and I had to repeat myself 10 times before he finally does it, right?
Yeah.
So the guy from Nigeria that I hired. I made a mistake before because I hired someone from Nigeria for graphic design. They did a fantastic job. So I thought, hey, no, Nigerian people are good. So, obviously a bad, it's not a race thing. It's a person thing. And,
Yeah.
So he did he did my website, and he eventually did a good job on it, but he didn't follow a lot of things I said, which I'm really pissed off about. So, I didn't give him any tip because like I was pissed off at him. So, fuck you, no tip for you, bitch.
Yeah, that's the hard thing about hiring people is that they don't always do things the way you want. And that's what would scare me.
Well, he did it eventually because I forced him. I had
okay.
I was so angry. They said that when you're forced to use your like fourth function, you get really pissed off. So for me, I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? You're gonna make me control you? I don't like controlling people. I'm an EP. Are you?
There you go.
Kidding me? So I fucking control the hell out of him. I'm the biggest Nazi asshole you could think of. I'm like, I want this to look like this. I'm not gonna pay you until it's done. That's like the biggest, like just double masculine sleep blast, ST blast. It was just like those two animals I'm using.
I think there's been occasions where I've worked with lower consume people who like they're really talented double observers. Yeah. But yeah, I'll give them feedback or tell them like, hey, do this or don't do that. And they'll just like they won't blow me off like on purpose, but they just won't they'll just do it their way.
Yeah.
And then like we'll be like looking at what happened afterwards is like, see why that's wrong? Is because I specifically told you to do it this way, and then you just didn't listen to me, and now it's ruined. So it's just like I'll get like really weird and angry about it.
Yeah.
Like, which is kind of uncharacteristic for me. So yeah, that's probably demon control there. Yeah, that's interesting.
But remember, Dave said in one of his videos, the best person for the job is always the person that's opposite. So for example, the best person to create policies and rules is the EP, because they'll look at all the rules and they'll pick the one that is actually the bare minimum necessary ones.
Okay.
The other ones, they think, okay, it's gonna slow down progress. It's not worth it. We can
And
just
an IJ will see which, like, okay, there's all these opportunities, but pick the ones that are super valuable for the EP.
yeah. Well, I mean, they said that the reason why it's happening is because you're an EP and naturally you want to gather. You're an IJ, you naturally want to control. So
Mhm.
that's why you have a controlling boss, is because you didn't want to control. So someone had to do it. And that person,
Yeah, they came in.
yeah, you
Yeah,
know,
it's like the person, like I know a couple people who, like, they were living with large groups of people, and when they moved off into smaller groups of people, there were voids that were being left for them to fill, and they grew as a person, like because they were kind of breaking off from their groups of friends, and all of a sudden they're taking on responsibilities that they weren't before. Like, one reason like I've moved away from certain people isn't because they were bad, it's because they were doing all the cooking and I was getting fat off of it. I was like, no, I want to fill this void. And the only way I'm going to fill this void is if it's not easy to, eat your food.
yeah,
Because you're a great cook and I'll eat 3,000 calories a day.
yeah,
So I got to move off on my own. Um, Dave and Shannon, they don't give audios anymore, and they hardly give any feedback for the typings.
yeah,
They just send a brief email with your type and maybe a couple sentences of not feedback, but just like, hey, you're a cool guy and hope these things work out for you. And then in my case, they gave me one suggestion of someone to follow. It was a bodybuilder named Seth Feroce
okay,
on YouTube. And I started looking up just today his content, and he has a lot of personality traits that I've tried to move away from, like the really crass sense of humor and stuff like that. Like, I don't have any moral problem against it. It's just like I've tried to move away from it for myself.
yeah.
But he has lots of great tips on like getting good nutrition and getting good like workout routines because he's an ENFP like me, or a type twin.
What's his name?
Seth Feroce. His last name's Feroce.
Okay,
Um, but he's got a beard that looks a lot like mine. He's basically looks like me,
yeah,
except with lots of muscles,
yeah,
so, and a different accent. Um, but he just really keeps his diet simple. He's like, start with chicken and rice, and the only reason you keep it simple is because he's an EP and doesn't like making lots of plans. And if things get too complicated, he'll just throw his entire routine out the window. But he'll just do like 6 meals of chicken and rice with like little add-ons here or there, and then he can start figuring out what he can add to it because he can regulate his SF or his body. Like, okay, now I know that the chicken and rice aren't upsetting my body, so I can add a different meal every couple days, and then I'll be able to journal and write down what that meal does to me, how it affects my muscles, how it makes them look, how it makes my stomach feel, just doing all that SF stuff. And like, this is really helpful. Like, this is really going to help me out because I need to control my diet and start working piece by piece over what's doing what for me.
yeah,
Because I used to be in pretty good shape, but with COVID, my weight's kind of gotten up there again.
yeah,
And I need to start like getting on a good diet because I'm doing the long runs and the exercise, but I'm not doing the good nutrition. So I need to start simplifying the nutrition. And then from that simple baseline, start adding in things in and see what they do. Like, does this make me gain weight? Does this bloat me? Does this make me feel sick? And I'm honestly think I'm going to like take that diet plan and just go with it and see where it takes me. I'm
right.
not going to eat as much as him because I'm not trying to build out that muscle, but yeah. So David and Shannon, they really knew who to recommend, and I appreciate that. So I'm going to be consuming that the next couple months.
All right, dude. I have last two questions for you, and we'll wrap the interview. First
For
one
sure.
is audio kinesthetic related. Um, so, would you say you are into music directly because of audio? And kinesthetic is, do you feel like you pick up sports or fitness pretty quickly because you are kinesthetic?
Um, with the audio, I've only recently started getting into making sounds, and they're more like soundscapes, not music per se.
Okay.
But my YouTube channel is devoted to that, and it's very beginner level. Like, I maybe get 10 views a video, kind of a thing, and that's fine. It's really just me learning by doing. So, but I am big into music and having an ear for music. Like, I'll consume lots of obscure artists. I like listening to music all the time, and if I'm not listening to music, I'm usually listening to like YouTube, consuming YouTube videos. So yeah, I'm big into really enjoying music. As for kinesthetic, I've never been a natural athlete. I like, sort of a narrow range of sports, and I like keeping it as simple as possible. So soccer and running are my two sports. And running's simple. All you do is just run. It's very simple for me. And then soccer is it's about as simple a sport as you can get. Like you kick a ball around, you run around, you kick a ball. It's the simplest thing in the world. And I don't do any fancy tricks or anything, but I really enjoy it. It has been a little bit of work to like get good at it. I'm kind of a naturally clumsy and unathletic person. I started playing sports in college and I got hurt a lot, SF last, but it was like kind of going through my own personal hell. Ever since, I've been able to do sports much more easily, and it was a good way for me to get over that hump by being so bad in college. And just it was so bad where they called me duck foot because I would be waddling around all the time because I was so hurt. Like I'd pull all my muscles. It was really bad. But now that I went over that through that pain, sports are more a part of my life. So
And then the last question I have for you is with SI. How do you plan on building your SI in the future? Not your personal development, but your SI, like, building up your savings and investments, fitness, um, yeah, anything SI related, pretty much something that, that you can, something concrete that you can build on the long term that is might be boring, but it's necessary, and will set you free essentially, because if you have savings,
yeah,
you have the freedom to do what you want. If your body is fit, then you have the freedom as you get older to do the things that you still want to do because you're not going to be constrained.
exactly.
So
Yeah.
what is your plan to build up your financial SI and your fitness SI?
The fitness SI, I kind of have to get some doctor appointments. Like my family might have a genetic heart condition, so I have to like be careful and actually find out if I'm about to die or not. But other than that, it's just sort of kind of uh like I like doing the easy things, like just running. But my physical therapist has, or a past physical therapist has told me that I need to strengthen certain muscles, especially like in my buttocks and stuff.
Yeah.
Like that supports your knees. I want to do this exercise called Nordics, that strengthen the glutes, that support the knees, so I can run into my older age and run faster for sports. So I have to figure out how to do Nordics, which is like it's like where you lay flat on your stomach and then pull yourself up, pivoting on your knees using your glutes, I believe. So yeah, I might be getting that wrong. Um, I can send you the link to the YouTube channel I found if you're interested. Um, and then diet, basically try to uh, look up Seth Feros's nutrition videos. Like, I don't want to be a bodybuilder, but like, he's the same personality type as me. So figure out how he's organizing the SF and rip off what he's doing. Um, thirdly, I've been looking through Athlean X videos and finding certain videos that would help target certain issues that I have. Like, I've always had core, like my core has always been very weak.
Yeah.
So I've been trying to find exercise videos and routines in his channel to like, um, and if you don't think he's very good, you can. I know you're in the fitness business, so you can
No, no,
send me
no.
somewhere
I'm
else.
laughing because Seamus works out with Athlete X.
Oh, really?
You can watch a video of them working out together, and then
Oh, I should look for that.
his partner, Jesse, is an ENFP according to Dave.
Okay.
So he's all the ENFPs flock to him. So
Yeah, he's just great at it. He just gives you the routines. He's a little complicated for like I know he's simple, but it's almost too complicated for me. Like things have to be so simple for me to do them. Like the
yeah,
routine has to be so simple. So I'm gonna try to find some of his like more his crash courses on like strengthening my core
yeah.
and like my upper legs and doing more stuff to support my knees because I've had some knee troubles over my career. As far as financial, my dad and my brother are good with the money, or they can be. Um, I think they have some SE issues, but or like not tracking what's coming around the bend. But as far as like setting up routines, like, and my brother-in-law, he works in mortgage, so he knows what he's doing. So I really just need to probably just take their advice. And I don't have a lot really, I don't really, my financial responsibilities are so minimal that any extra money I make can really go into my future. So one thing I've been wanting to do is put more of like my art into, like, start selling it. So I need to start building a business model where I can start making residual income off my art, even if it's just a tiny little bit. Like I can take that tiny little bit, it's like all extra, so it can go into investments or savings or what have you. Just getting myself used to the idea of making money based on what I do, because when I'm not at the group home, I'm drawing or making soundscapes or trying to make little independent films eventually, or writing. And I need to start making money off of that because, like, when I'm older, it'll be nice to be able to like support myself with those passions that I have. Working at the foster care home is great and everything, but I probably can't support a family off of that. And I probably can't support my future off of that forever. It's like, it's just a temporary job. It's just like a scab, like, as much as I enjoy doing it. Um, so when I was 25, I made a list of things that I wanted to save up and buy. And over the last 10 years, I've gotten them all. So what I should do, I don't know, as a 35-year-old, is make a list of things I want to save up, like, or savings things I want to fill. I should make a list of those things and just like work on knocking them off, I guess. Um, so that's probably a start for me. It'll have to be simple. Like whatever I do has to be ridiculously simple. But
All right, Nathan, man, thanks for coming out and doing this interview. Really appreciate it, dude.
yeah, thank you, Kendrick. It was really great talking to you.
Yeah, man,
Really appreciate the opportunity.
for sure. All right, dude. So peace out and see
Yeah.
you around.
Yeah, see you, dude.